Well, good evening to you joining us here at the Marcia Week Show. Good evening to the loyal opposition, to every single one of you that make this telecast and here on StreamYard and on YouTube. And I'm not sure her Facebook page is back up as yet. But certainly in Instagram and TikTok and any of the other platforms, we really appreciate each one of you making it possible and making this session possible every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday night. And I greet you on the behalf of Marcia Weeks. I'm the co host. Of course, you know I'm Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, but I'm Ferdinand to most people. I believe all of that title stuff has its place, but among the loyal opposition, it's good to be a part of this great family and to see so many of you that have already been signed on this evening. So let me take a moment to welcome you. I'll try to welcome as many of you as I can individually. Of course, as you know, I cannot get it done like Marcia Weeks. I mean, I just sit and marvel at how wonderful she puts down, that welcome to all of you. But I'm going to try my best. All right. Like FX Trading, Mimi, good evening to you as well, sons and daughters. Thank you, sir. CG, Cleopatra Gaskin, good evening to you as well. Michael Jilts, I had seen somebody. Owen, right. Owen, I'd seen you signed on from earlier, locked on from Philadelphia. Welcome, sir. Great to have you with us this evening. Ryan Rock, really good to have you. I wish we could get the young men in this country to look at life differently. And, Ryan, we possibly can, but it's going to take effort and it's going to take work from all of us. And I still think, I agree with you. I still think, even though the odds are stacked against them, I still think that we stand a chance of doing that. Cecilia Miller, welcome to you as well. Blessed good evening to you. Good evening, Peter. I love the way you get that. Good afternoon, Barbados. Good afternoon, Marcia Weeks, strong woman. Good afternoon to all the members of the Righteous Coalition of Barbados. Good afternoon. Good evening to you, Marcia. Keep me on my toes. It's 7:02, so I just have a couple more minutes before I play that national anthem. Sandra Franklin, really nice to have you with us again tonight. Diana Husbands and Mystic Angel. Oh, you all are so faithful. Really, really, really faithful. Sir Alfred Benjamin, all the way from, I think it's Brooklyn. Sir Alfred, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I believe I'm right, Brooklyn. Beverly Prescott, great to have you with us again this evening. Lemuel Tull, Paulette Payne, Lucinda Aline, of course, Dave Weeks. Yes, Dave, we are a family in need. Or do you have a family in need? I think you have a family in need as well, Dave. But Juliet Gittins, good night to you. Tell Nick as well. Nikki, thank you so very much, Nikki. That I really appreciate that. I know I try my best. I put it that way. I try my best, and I miss you too when I am not there. I missed a couple. I think I missed one Saturday because my daughter was intensely occupied at her job, and I had to take up the slack in assisting with my grands. So parental duty comes very high and important to me these days. At Teroni Hall, good evening to you, Ferdinand. I love that. I love that. Amen. At least you don't do like some Americans that call me Freddie Nan, but you're so right. Ferdinand, I love it. Teroni Hall, thank you so much. Heathcliff, welcome. Clive Osborne, great to have you. Nigel Carrington, good night to you as well. It's me. That I don't know if that's me or if it's me who is another me, but whoever it is, it's me. Good evening to you too. And God, there's a dark cloud over Barbados, and those who have eyes, let them see. Yeah, we have some spiritual entity, God, over this country, but you know what? We can get rid of it. We can remove it. We can eradicate it if we put our faith together. And when I say that, I listened to the show last night, and I heard a lot about the church, and I'll touch on that later on tonight. But I want to say that I am weary of people who want to pray everything away without realizing that just like the Apostle James says, you say you have your faith, you say you pray. Well, then let me see your prayer by your works. Let me see your faith by your works. So it's not enough to just regurgitate and rattle off things off your lips. There's a strong perspective that God has where he expects us to act. He expects us to do things, not just pray about them. And I've found that many people want to excuse away the responsibility of acting under the guise of prayer. And that is the position I have taken, because when I look through the Word of God, which I believe in, my faith is, I have a Christian faith. I believe that God requires us to do every single thing he tells us in however you term it, commandment or however you term it. The reality is that we have to do. He said, if you will observe to do according to all that is written therein. Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. In other words, do what I tell you. So it's not enough to just get in here and regurgitate things. You have to act. You have to do. And that's one of the reasons I am involved in this program, in this activism action as a Christian minister, because I read that righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. And if that's the case, then I believe he expects we who represent him to represent righteousness and justice. And that's why I'm here, because if it makes up his throne as a foundation, is critically important to him. So I am acting, and I'm not going to be looking around to see who else is coming with me. I am going to be acting, even if I have to act alone as a minister and a spiritual leader, a Christian spiritual leader in this country. Nobody can buy me. Nobody can buy my mouth, my silence, or otherwise. And if you spend any time around me, you'll get to know that pretty well quickly, that nobody can pay me for that. I have a freedom and a liberty that even Mr. Rollins, who is, that comedian, I was watching a video of him this evening, and I tell you, he was speaking about some powerful things relative to UK when it comes to freedom of expression and the right for us to be able to engage one another. And that's how we actually develop, because we can offend one another, and in that process we can develop, we can make strides forward because we do it together. And that's one of the things that we have to be vigilant of in Barbados, that the cancel culture does not make its way into this country. If it's in the United States, keep it there. But it must not make its way into this country, and we will not be giving way to the government to institute a legal perspective to silence the voice of people who have a right to speak. There's certain rights that are protected under the Charter of Human Rights, and freedom of expression is one of them. And no legislation that is created should violate the Charter of Human Rights. That's the United Nations Charter of Human Rights. So we are not backing down. We are not surrendering. We are not going to be silenced. We are not going to give up. We are not afraid. All right. So that's the position we adopt as the Righteous Coalition. So welcome to all of you. Jenny Motley, Lucinda Aline, Janitha Calendar, great to have you with us. Lena Bell, Nat Grant, and God, I mentioned you just night. Be not only hearers of the word, but also doers. You're so right. A lot of people don't want to do, and then they don't want to join us. They want to pray for government, but then you don't want to join in a protest march, because that protest march is a march of justice and righteousness. And don't worry to talk to me about the apostles and whatnot. Those guys did not hide and sit in the back room of things. Those guys got in the face. They got in the face of the governmental authorities to the degree that it cost them their lives. They were thrown to the lions in Colosseum. They did not hide. They stood up. As a matter of fact, if my historical mind serves me correctly, I think it was Emperor Nero that blamed the Christians for the decline in the economic benefit and economic prosperity of Rome, because when they gave their lives to the Lord, they stopped attending the Colosseum Games, where people were being killed and that kind of stuff. And so, when you stand up for what is right, when you stand up for the truth, when you come together, you can bring the most powerful governments down. when the people stand together. And I listened to that last night. I was listening to the show with our brother from Kenya, listening to the parallels, the amazing parallels, and we'll touch on that tonight. All right. So listen, folks, without any further ado, let's get this show rolling. Of course, you know, the very first thing that we're going to get this show rolling with tonight is going to be the national anthem. And then, of course, you know, the very next thing that we're going to get this show rolling with tonight is going to be our national pledge. All right. So let's together engage the national anthem. Let me just try to pull it up there, unless you have it, Dave. Dave, you want to do that for me? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do that. And that national anthem, that national flag, our sovereign flag. Amen. Beautiful. Look at it. Our sovereign flag. And, you know, this is a very important symbol to us as a nation. It's what talks to us about our sovereignty. It's what talks to us about our nationhood and our nationality, our Barbadian flag. And this flag, I'm told, should never touch the ground. It's here behind my chair in my study here in my office. It doesn't touch the ground. And I'm not even the leader of the country, with a clear understanding that it should never touch the ground. And so, you know, when we have leaders that abuse and I don't think that's the word I really want to find, but desecrate is the word. Desecrate our national emblems, then it is my view that leader needs to resign and step down from office, because the one thing you should do is to protect our national symbols. And so I encourage you to join me with our pledge together. All right, can we share it together? I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. And that's a pledge that we stick to. I tell you, we stick to it. We believe in it, and we are grateful for the goodness of God to us as a country, how he has kept us, blessed us, prospered us. I tell you, you know, it's not a political or politician's quote that Barbados punches above its weight. That is the position God has put us in to be able to punch above our weight as people in this country. And we are grateful tonight. We are very, very grateful tonight to be a part of this great country, this great sovereign nation that we are a part of. Uh, and you know, we really are going to be grateful, and we're going to do all we can to make our country great. All right, so respect to all of you. Yes, absolutely, Dave, respect the national emblems. I mean, I'm told you can't even wear them as hats and all that kind of stuff. You can't desecrate them. So a leader should never lead in desecrating. Our flag should never have gone into a grave even for a moment in Ghana. Never, 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 never. And any leader who had any understanding, even if you don't have it in the spirit realm, even if you only had it in the political realm, you should understand the importance of the symbol of our national flag. And so I make no apologies for making the statement that I have made. Now, we've had a lot happen, folk, over the last several days. You know, over the last week, we've had another couple of deaths and murders in the country. And I have to agree with one of my colleagues here in the loyal opposition who stated earlier, you know, we're not going to give up on our young people. And, you know, our young people are fighting a battle that to a large degree, they did not necessarily conceptualize. And I know you're going to be quick to tell me things, but, you know, the Jesuits made a statement that I have never forgotten. Give us a child for the first 7 years, and I will show you the man. And so I believe that a lot of our young people that are, you know, going astray and being led astray by others, some of those others did not have the developmental component that was necessary in terms of family development. And sometimes, you know, as parents, we don't want to own the responsibility for how we have contributed to the negative development of some of our children. And we are not saying that children are not going to be a challenge or anything of the sort. Of course they will. We were. But look at how many of us today, because of the punishment, the discipline, and all these different things, the care, the love, the strictness, all of these things that came together in our family. And many of us didn't necessarily have a perfect household, you know, but we had a village. You know, you heard it takes a village to raise a child. In a real sense, we had a village, because you couldn't come down through your village and behave a certain way and your parents not know about it. And when your parents found, as a matter of fact, some of those same villagers would cut your backside. And when your parents heard about it, you get your backside cut then again. And none of us have gone astray and array with a little backside cut. And one of the things that God has blessed us with on the back end of our bodies is a considerably buffered environment that can take it, you know. And I think it's BARBADOS that has successfully been able to weave physical violence, you know, domestic violence and physical violence against children into the matter of corporal punishment and discipline. Because I learned from a long time ago, never discipline a child in anger. Now, was I always successful at that? No, none of us are perfect. None of us have been successful at it. And there are times I've had to go back to my children and apologize. And it takes a man, it takes a woman to do that. And children learn from that. You know, it's not just a case of you apologizing. It's a case of you setting parameters, setting conditions, setting aspects of life in place that will lead these young people to develop into being better young people with responsibility in their country. And regrettably, many of our young men have not benefited from this. And, you know, we're losing a lot of our young men. And I'm going to say something. I hope it doesn't upset you. But you see this alphabet agenda? This alphabet agenda is hell-bent on destroying the root of the success of a country, and that is the family. It is hell-bent on dismantling the very fabric of society. And, you know, there's a little verse that says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? So if they succeed in destroying the foundation of a country, which is the family The family is the foundation of the country. So if you find the country going astray, I dare say what has happened is that the family has become dysfunctional. And what we need to do urgently, urgently, is to pay attention to it. Now, in the light of that, I watched the show. Um, I watched the show last night with our brother from Kenya, and I want to thank Marcia for bringing him on, and so that he could share with us the reality of things that are happening in Kenya. And in terms of the protests, we also have protests that are going on in Jamaica concerning the accessibility to land on the beaches and so on, and it's happening for all around the world, you know. And I said on Saturday that the issue that people have now globally is that they do not trust their governments. That's what's happening, and you can see it being manifested. You see the farmers protesting. I think it was in Spain or in France. You saw when they increased the age by 1 year, 1 year for retirement in France. The people nearly burnt, excuse me, the people nearly burnt the country down just by increasing it by 1 year. But our government gets here, increases the retirement age by 3 years or whatever it is. Caswell will be the expert at that. And we don't say boo. We have nothing to say. The people in Barbados, and Marcia shared with us in the last show I was on with her concerning Barbadians being passive. And we saw that clip with our Calypsonian, with the representative from the sanitation department. I can't remember his name right now. His name slips me all. I'm sure we'll put it in the chat for me to remind me of it. So I know somebody's going to put it there for my benefit, because I have to depend on all of you all for all of this kind of stuff, okay? Because my mind is too overburdened with too much information. But, you know, we saw him standing up for someone in his flight in Canada, Mr. Padmore. Thank you, Tyrone. Saw him standing up. And the question was that passivity? Absolutely not. That was not passivity. Folk, we have to get out there and let the government know that Barbadians are not satisfied with their performance that they're engaging. You know, I watched a video, a YouTube video with the Deputy Prime Minister. I know her father very, very well, and I am respectful of him. I'm respectful of him. He's a good friend of ours. Our families are great friends. But you know, I listened to her talking about the mill and pave project, and I thought to myself, but when you all came to office in 2018, didn't you obtain a loan from the Inter-American Development Bank? I think it was for some $200 and some million for infrastructural development. What happened? Why are we waiting until now? Don't talk to me about rainy season. There have been a lot of dry seasons between 2018 and 2024. A lot. So why are we now all of a sudden now seeing an attempt to fix our roads? You know how many car repairs I have had to go through, repairing headlights, rims, shock absorbers, because of the potholes and wells that have been in our road. And I know some of you all have suffered as a result of that. So we had to go through all of that when you had the funding available to start the process. But you're going to wait till the World Cup to start the process. Don't give me that. Whatever you do, don't try to sell that to me. And in addition, I want to again repeat my position that you, as a minister, any minister in government, and government do not expect to receive accolades from the people for the job you are doing, because that is what we employed you to do. If you go above and beyond that, yes, we will give you the accolades. But don't come to us and tell us when you put in street lights and when you fix roads and when you repair schools that you can come and laud it out, you know, and try to make us think of all the... No, that's what you're supposed to do. That's your job. That's what we paid you for. That's what we elected you to office to do. So please don't come giving those perspectives to us. Good evening to you, Errol Calendar, watching from Connecticut. God bless you. Great for you joining us. Church Army will stand up and get out there. Hurricane, yes, they need to. Ministers, and I don't know, I heard the gentleman from Kenya talk about how the president went to churches and gave them big offerings and all that kind of stuff. I don't know anybody has ever done that in any church I have been involved in even here in Barbados. I don't know it has ever been done. And I'm going to be brutally frank with you. If it was done, I would have taken it to task. And if it was done, this person's mouth ain't going to be shut. It wasn't shut back then, and it's not going to be shut now. And it's not ever going to be shut by any offering. So I cannot be bought. You cannot be bought. We are people of principle. We are people of decency and honor. We respect our country, our flag. We defend its honor. And by our living, we will do credit to our nation wherever we go, even if the only place we go is right here in Barbados. All right? So I'm not giving up on our youth. I don't want you to give up on our youth. We're going to have some of them on tonight, and you're going to be hearing from some of them. Let me quickly touch on another matter. This archive situation that we had. I don't know why. I hope an investigation is done to discover what was the cause of the fire. And I hope that the assumption is not made that it was a lightning strike and you're taking it from there. I hope you take it from scratch and find out what was the source and cause of the fire. I have difficulty in believing lightning because if I observe the building properly, I think it's stone and I think its roof is galvanized. I stand to be corrected. I've never seen lightning go through anything like galvanized, but then again, I know lightning is extremely powerful and it can do anything. So I wouldn't say that has to be ruled out. But what I will say is that I believe that if you're going to act in a professional manner as an investigator of fires, then you should start to look, first of all, from a source and not assume that because it is said to be so that you begin your investigation from that position. I think you should look through the entire wreckage and find out where the source was. So that's one aspect. The second one is the destruction of the records. It is a very, very serious matter. It is the destruction of records that hold the history of property in this country. And on the basis of what we are facing today in Bathsheba, in Martins Bay, in the Scotland district, in the context of that is disturbing, very, very disturbing, because it means that we cannot track the heritage of the lands in Barbados back to the original owners and come forward, even if there were slave owners, so that, reparations or whatever you can engage that coming all the way down. It's a very serious matter where our records, financial, governmental records, clergy records and all of that, when you consider the importance of the church back in those days and the records that the church held for people back in those days, it's a very, very serious matter. And I must say that I'm concerned with the casual nature in which the government is adapting this. And let me move on to one final thing before I want to say I know that my good friend Caswell is going to be joining me very shortly. I pray he comes in and doesn't make me work too hard. And of course, we'll have others that are going to be joining us later on in the night. And we're going to be dealing with a number of different subjects as we go through tonight. We'll be dealing from issues and we'll be dealing from an educational perspective as well. But I'm looking forward to Caswell and Heather joining us and Dawn and Kimar. And hopefully, I want us to be in prayer for Marcia Weeks. She's not been feeling very well today. And I'm hoping and praying that at some point she may be able to get on even for a few minutes, a few moments and join us, because she always brings such a difference to the show. And we all bring our own environment, our own climate to the show. But let me quickly move to one other perspective that I have reviewed. Now, I was reviewing a video by the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Owen Seymour Arthur, and his perspectives that were shared after the removal of one of the members of the Barbados Labour Party from the party, and Dr. Agard, I believe, and he made no apologies about his views where the current Prime Minister is concerned. And I take his statements quite seriously. because what it appeared to me consistently from his observations was that she acted um, deceitfully in the background on an ongoing basis. He cited one example of eminent persons, which he indicated to her he did not want to be a part of that. And she went behind his back and put him on the thing. And he objected to it when he stood in Parliament to defend the aspect of the adjustment to the revenues department, which he implemented himself as the prime minister, and subsequently could not oppose it if he is the person who introduced it and through his office brought started to bring the reforms to the revenue in the revenue department. He could not then get up and oppose the very thing in Parliament that he conceived and introduced. And there was an attempt to remove him from the party. A couple of people, and he named the names that went behind his back to get him removed from the party after serving the party for so many years as a faithful individual. My mother was instrumental in naming him when she was on the National Executive Committee in the days of Tom Adams, when we had that intriguing election in St. Peter with Sybil Leacock, and just winning by one vote. That if my memory serves me correctly, and so we have to pay attention when a person of his stature makes the statements that he makes, and it is recorded that he referred to her as a despot. And I took the opportunity to look up the meaning of the word despot. And I want to read it. I want to read the definition to you, because we are an educating platform. And this is what it says: a ruler or other person who holds absolute power, typically one who exercises it in a cruel or oppressive way. Right. And that's a video, I wish we could show it here. It was, I wish one of these nights that Marcia would give me the permission to share it here so that we could hear. Those words do not fall on deaf ears. And similar words are words like totalitarian, authoritarian, autocratic. These are some serious words, folk. And I'll tell you something. One of the parallels that was made last night by the gentleman from Kenya that Marcia picked up was that he was the king of the era, I think is what they called him. And, we could call our prime minister the queen of the air, and there was that parallel. And I have observed, and I have said it here on the show, I have said it on the marches, that our prime minister was elected by the people of Barbados to represent Barbados, not to represent the World Economic Forum on climate change, not to represent the G20 or G7 on climate change, not to represent the European Union on climate change. And let me stick a pin there a minute. You see, this climate change thing, I am not going to get into an argument and debate with anybody. But I remember a whistleblower in the United States of America noting the jet trails over an area where commercial aircraft were not allowed to fly. Military aircraft were not assigned to that area. And she saw the jet trails in that area that were not disseminating, but she saw them forming clouds. And those clouds would move down toward areas like Texas and so on, and they would carry rain with them. We saw a flood. I think it was either in Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi or one of those Middle Eastern countries. We saw this flood that suddenly occurred. And I remember watching a video right after that where the minister of government in the Saudi Arabian government, I think it was, I stand to be corrected because I'm watching so many things and I do get them mixed up. I'm not perfect. But he was showing the interviewer how they go about seeding clouds. And I said I turned to one of my children and I said, you can see clouds, but when you see them, you can't control them. You see, people are interfering with nature. And I firmly believe, coming out of this pandemic, I firmly believe that there are governments in this world with enough technology to interfere with the climates. And a lot of what we are hearing being sold to us as climate change is the interference of natural systems by human beings. And they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're dealing with. And when they interfere with it, then you can't control it. And then you end up paying the price. Now, I'm not saying every climatic condition is vested in that. And I do believe that we have seen some changes. I am not satisfied that it's entirely a matter of carbon dioxide emissions. And I don't know how we're going to bring carbon dioxide emissions in the world to zero, because last I checked, from a biological and geographical position, plants need carbon dioxide to live and breathe the oxygen that you and I breathe. So I don't know how we're going to get that done. But anyhow, that's my little 2 cents worth when it comes to that. Well, listen, I see Mr. Caswell Franklin in the waiting room. And whenever he gets into the waiting room, generals do not like being kept waiting because they are commanders in chief. So we want to bring Mr. Franklin in right away. So, Caswell, I'm going to bring you in. Welcome, General Caswell Franklin. That's how Marcy refers to you, General. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. It's so good to have you with us again this evening. And we look forward to another evening of education from you. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. I missed yesterday because I was working. And, you know, in my job, work doesn't have 8 to 4 things attached to it. As a matter of fact, I did not get a chance to see any of the show last night because I finished working last night at minutes 11. You know, and today was today was so tired and funny, but
me too, my friend, me too.
So, but I am here because I wanted to talk about labor again, and this time it's going to be the last time I'm going to talk about the labor department, and at least from this perspective of asking the minister to do his job. But before I do that, Freddie, I have to agree with you about this climate change thing. I think it's a hoax. You know, they have gotten so far as to say that the cattle, when they pass air, that is one of the reasons why we are having these problems with climate change. If that were the case, we would have had climate change eons ago, because you don't know how much buffalo and things were on the prairie in the United States. And till the Americans, the white people hunt them down. Because remember, the Indians used to, well, they call them the Native Americans, I prefer to call them. Used to use them for food and clothing and shelter. But then when the white man came, he bought for sport, and he just hunted them down and left them on the ground because it was just a sport for them. But they were in the millions, and you could see that them fellas every few minutes that bomb would go off and they would be going into the atmosphere. I do not believe them. I don't have any scientific knowledge or anything like that. But what I can tell you, what they're saying does not make sense. And they are and calling themselves climate scientists and all kinds of stuff. They are destroying the environment. They are destroying the world. And you mentioned also, Freddie, what they did in Dubai, where they seeded the clouds, and then you had more rain in 1 hour than they had in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't understand. The silly thing is, these are godless people you're dealing with, you see. And they feel like they can take over his job and do it better. And that is the problem.
And the thing, is Caswell, that when you interfere with nature, period, and you know what I mean by nature, period, no matter what component of nature you care to engage, you can't control it, because it's going to respond in its own way. You know what I'm saying? and even in the cloning of animals and all this kind of stuff that they're doing. You don't interfere with the natural processes of things. And that's actually, while they don't want to admit it, that's why we had the last pandemic, because they interfered with a normal virus and weaponized it. And nobody wants to admit it. But the evidence is there. And then they couldn't control it. It got out of control. It got out and nearly devastated the whole world.
But devastated the whole world. But for there's so many things that people feel like they're challenging God. And I try to take over your job or anything like that for you, but I just tell you, look.
No. You're making stating facts.
This only yesterday somebody sent me a video of a guy in England who is developing a featherless chicken. Ugly things, and the problem there is that he is saying it's better for the tropics. They're not going to do them in England because the birds in England need their feathers because they keep them warm. But they're saying in countries in the Caribbean and other places where you got a lot of heat, you don't want the chicken don't want feathers. So they have manipulated the chicken to take out that gene that produces feathers.
The feathers?
So I bought some bald birds,
So wait, Caswell, what were all the birds that were about down here before the chickens arrived? The sparrows and the black, all of them going to be featherless too?
No, but I don't understand. You see what they have done, right?
I tell you, boy, these people are insane.
First of all, chickens are not intended to be in a big coop, and they're supposed to roam free. So when you put so many into one space and it gets hot, they'll die. You can't not treat them properly and expect them to live. And if it means air conditioning those pens with 10,000 birds at once in them, then you go do it. You don't develop a featherless bird. What you do, you make the conditions humane. You would not want to live in those conditions, so why should you put a bird? And then you want to eat it. But they will come up and they will try to do everything because they feel that God's design is inferior and they want to improve on it. And
I like the statement. I like the statement you just made. God's design. That's a nice one. I like that. God's design.
But they feel like they can improve on it. I always tell people all you have to do to see God's design is to go outside and look in the air, And if they can improve on that, I won't go much more. Just go outside and look up in the sky. Let's open outside is clear. You see stars and they're supposed to be moving. And they don't bang hitting one another and drop down. And that was we're gonna be running all over the place. You know why? There's a design.
Yep. And the thing I've been listening to, I don't know what everything climate change is responsible for. You said you wanted to deal with labor tonight, right? But climate change is responsible for that too. I mean, climate change is responsible for everything. As soon as there's a problem, is climate change. I listened to the Deputy Prime Minister today talking about mill and pave and not being able to begin, they were waiting for the dry season and whatnot and talking about the climate change. My father used to work in the highway and transport and they used to do roads when the rain was falling. I done nothing new.
But for the problem here is that these people don't know how to build roads. The old people who used to build roads that didn't have master's degrees and all kind of stuff.
That's right.
Built roads that last 40 and 50 years.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
They are building roads that last not even 40 weeks.
Let the rain fall.
I remember.
Let the rain fall.
I remember they had paved the road just after we passed Combermere. And a container truck stopped on the road, like applied brakes, and all the service that all the way. Then they had to go and do it over again because they don't know what they're doing. The old men used to build roads by putting big rocks down first, and then put a smaller rock and then a smaller rock, then cover them with thing, so the water can pass through. Water don't pass through under the road, so they come on top of the washway they put down there, and then but it is easier. It is easier to do it this way. And not only easier, but it is not going to last. So the contractor who builds it will get another job soon. Because and that is why the government should be building these roads instead of giving them to these contractors, because the contractors are not building proper structures because they want to make sure that they got next year they got jobs, they get another contract. That is the problem. When MTW built them, the fellas weren't looking because they're gonna get the salary, a few pittance that the government pays, whether they build the road or not. So the fellas can take the time and do it well. But no, and look, you remember once the water used to run alongside the gutters next to the roads?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes, I do. You remember when they used to have cuscus grass to stop the mud from coming into the fields and coming into the road? Remember that?
Everything is going with different, but we have a lot of learning. And that learning shows us how to do it badly. The fellows who could barely read and write used to do better work than these fellows who spent 10 years going through university. I don't understand it.
I don't want to take away
from the old man.
I don't want to take away from your time at all, and I know I get really interesting things and you jump in there, but quick before you go, I live in an old home that has a gable roof. When last have you seen a house designed today with a gable roof?
They don't do it because the architects learn in the United States, and they come and bring the designs that they were taught in the United States or wherever. Mm-hmm. They're not built for our conditions. The gable would, when the wind from the storm hit the gable, it will go up.
Yeah,
but when you have the flat roof, it goes under there and lift it up and take it off from there. So it always comes off. Those houses used to be cooler because if you look, there was a window that they couldn't open. I don't know what it's called.
That's right.
And the hot air raises.
Yeah.
And I don't know what more they don't raise, but hot air raises, and those little louver type things, we used to call them flats. The hot air used to go through there, and the house used to be cool all the time.
Yes, all the time.
But you have houses built now. When you come home on evenings and you open the door, you're gonna step until the heat come up before it knock you out. And then you have to go in there. The windows are these single hung sash windows. When you close them down, there's no ventilation. And then you go in there at night because you can't let them crack a little bit because the thief will come and push them open and come in. So these houses are designed to kill people, make you sick.
I tell you. Well, listen, don't let me take away from your labor stuff, huh?
I get carried away because that's one of my pet peeves, when I see the problems with housing and they do. I remember at the Gordon Common Hospital, I spent a lot of time in there as a little boy because I used to go in there and play with the old people. I used to play games and play dominoes, throw balls at the old people, let them catch, keep them active. As a little boy when I was in primary school and then my first few years in secondary school. And that place used to be cool. They changed the roof, put a cement roof and make a flat roof there, and then had to put in fans and all kinds of things. And the old people there, when they come sweating. Nobody ever sweated in there before. Now they close it down. But I don't know why, but
well, let's hear about this stuff to do with labor. Yeah, let's hear about this stuff.
Sometimes it bothers me to hear that we have a minister of labor and we are still suffering like that. If labor was attached to some other ministry and it was a afterthought somewhere, I can understand workers being treated the way they are. Right? I have in my possession a document from the registrar of the Supreme Court employing clerks and calling them consultants who will do the work for what the magistrate's court people what they normally do, right? I cannot believe. And the registrar is a lawyer, a good lawyer as far as I know, right? And she has allowed government to put her in a position where she is now employing consultants in the magistrate's court or contractors or whatever they feel like calling them, consultants. Let me just read what they're saying that these consultants are supposed to, and tell me if these are really consultants or if they are clerical officers doing clerical work in the public service, and the government is choosing to, oh dear, that one disappeared. Anyhow, what they have done actually, because I can't find it now, but what they have actually done is to get people to collect the fines, collect the fees, make the notes for the magistrates and all kind of stuff. This is what the legal assistants, and this is what they collect, but they're paying them $2,500. No national insurance, no pay away if they're eligible to pay away. So these people know if they get sick, they go home, and hopefully, out of the pittance that they pay them, they would have saved something because they ain't getting national insurance and they're going to get a salary. Government cannot be doing this to its workers, to the people of this country, especially in the situation where they then raise the minimum contributions to get a national insurance pension. Now, what will happen down the road if they continue doing this nonsense is that when time comes for these people to get pensions, they will hear from national insurance, you don't have enough contributions. So they will give you a lump sum and say to you, goodbye. Because they had passed legislation sometime back that says if you used to work and you were not paying contributions, you will not get the non-contributory pension. So you're not going to get the non-contributory pension. There's no contributory pension because the government raised the qualifying period and also didn't pay contributions for hundreds of people. So we have people in all aspects of the public service, all areas of public service now, calling contractors. We have consultants who are people who clean the streets, cleaning the gutters, cleaning the botanical gardens. These are consultants. No, these are not consultants. So when it was pointed out to the government that these people are not consultants, that they are workers, what the government did, the government get into the back and said, this is yours. So now you're using your own tools, so you are now a consultant. This is shameful, to say the least. A government, and a Labour Party government, because this Barbados Labour Party was born out of the struggles of the working class to protect workers. That's what it's there for. That's why they call it a Labour Party. They don't call it Labour Party because they had no other reason. They had another name to call it, so they call it so. And this government is doing more harm to labor. Their mandate, their origins, is to protect labor. Remember, we had the conservatives and all kinds of people before who were more interested in the merchant class. Well, this government is more interested in the merchant class than any other Labour Party administration that we've ever had. And it has to stop. Because they are devastating the people who can least take care of themselves. People like to call them the most vulnerable. But that is exactly what is happening. You are taking people who go up the road with a red shirt and jump up and eat the macaroni pie, the greasy macaroni pie on the East Coast. And then those same people who jump up and keep all kind of noise for you, you're treating them badly. You don't care anything about them. You just want this kind of worship, because it almost equates to worship, the way they treat the prime minister. And then this young person that they're worshiping has no regard for their welfare, has no regard for their future. Because if you continue to doing this, people, and you're saying that, and the thing is, the people that are getting these jobs are their supporters. You understand what I'm saying? Because the Dems are not getting these jobs, you know. The people who they identify as Dems are not getting these jobs. These are their workers. These are the people that voted for them, that supported them, But the government turned around and not supporting the people that voted for them. Who they're supporting? They're supporting friends, family, and as Glenn would say, fornicators. And they're doing everything possible. This government, according to the information I have, the Prime Minister issued instructions that those consultants at the top, not the low level consultants, will get a 20% gratuity on top of their salary. So while the other people in the public service were getting 3% and 3% in the second year, they got 20% backdated. Mind you, they were making $10,000 and $12,000 a month. And they get 20% increase. But the guy who was making $1,500 and $2,000, they get 3%. You see where we're going?
Mm-hmm.
And then you expect this country to remain calm and peaceful. It will not remain calm and peaceful when the poorest of the poor are suffering. And why I complain also now, because the government now has done a dirty on the people of this country. So people who should be public officers are not public officers. They're calling them consultants. And the private sector said, well, government doing this? Well, if they're doing it too, we can take the government's example. And private sector workers now are going through the same stresses that the government is imposing on its own workers. Case in point, a lot of employers are hiring people for 11 months. Why 11 months? Because after a year, you cannot dismiss the person without going through a process. So if you've been working for a year or more and you want to get rid of me, I must have done something wrong. Where you can come up, bring me up on charges, or my performance will have to be poor, and you will then have to bring me to a meeting in accordance with Section 29(5) of the Employment Rights Act, which will up, and then there's a schedule, the fourth schedule that tell you how it's supposed to be applied. The fourth schedule tells you that if disciplinary action is contemplated, the employer must settle in writing the alleged conduct or characteristics of the employee and send a note to him telling him that let me see if I find it for you, that you are going to have a disciplinary meeting. And let me just read the actual thing for you. It says the employer must settle in writing the alleged conduct or characteristics of the employee or other circumstances which led him to contemplate taking disciplinary action against the employee. That's step 1A, and then B. And send the statement or a copy of it to the employee and invite the employee along with his representative, if any, to attend a meeting to discuss the matter. Only today I was at the Labor Department and a young lady thought she recognized me. And she was there for money. I said, Casper. She said, yeah, Casper Franklin. And I said, what's the problem? And I was leaving and she was there going in. And she said, no, I don't have a problem with my friend. Her friend got accused of something that wasn't proven, but she didn't have a year in the job, so they fired her. There's no recourse for her unless the employer would have written on that green paper that she was a thief and sent to national insurance, and that is defamation. But for a person who is making minimum wage, you can't get a lawyer to bring a defamation suit against an employer who says that. So even though you might have the right to sue, you don't have the wherewithal to do so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the employers, private sector employers, are abusing that provision in Section 27 of the Employment Rights Act that says that these rights under the employment rights apply after you have been employed for a year. Right? So when if you so they are making sure people say home 11 months and 3 weeks. Right? So that they don't have to go through the process. They're calling people consultants, like government. So they do not have to pay vacation pay and they do not have to pay national insurance contributions. But again, the law does not allow the government or private sectors to determine who is an employee or who is a contractor. That role is in the legislation, in national insurance determination of claims and questions regulations 1967 says that the National Insurance Board is the only body that can determine if you are an employer or an employee, if you are an employee or a contractor. But they are not going to the National Insurance Board for that determination because they know that the National Insurance Board cannot sensibly come to a conclusion that the workers that they have out there that don't benefit from becoming other than a salary, that they are consultants or they are contractors. So, so the government is doing it. The government is breaching the law and making people consultants at the lowest level and at the highest level too, all through the place, all because the IMF telling them you can hire more, you can employ more people. So you're not hiring staff, you are hiring so you are still branding people, still paying out the money, but you can't call it salary. So if you don't have salary, then you don't have national insurance. And government, a Barbados Labour Party government, a Labour government, has allowed the IMF to tell them to break the laws of Barbados. And these people that we got a Minister of Labour who should be saying, well, look, I can't be Minister of Labour, especially me, a man of God, because he's a preacher in the Adventist church. I being a man of God, I cannot behave in this manner because it's dishonest. If I were his position, I would resign from one or the other. But you can't be both. Because
go ahead.
When you serve God's people, let me talk to him in a minute, the language you should understand. You are serving God. When you are taking care of his people.
That's very true. That is very, very true, Caswell. When you're looking after people, regardless of it could be even at the gas station pump, or at the cashier's register.
So when you are a man of God, you preach, you call your people look up to you for guidance, spiritual guidance, and then you will turn around and allow those same people to be destroyed by a wicked government that you are part of. You can't be
you bring your godliness into question.
But you see, the thing is, I want to go further than that. You're flying in the face of God because you are standing up and saying, I am one of your ministers. But he is more interested in serving as a minister of government than the minister for the Lord. And as a result, he is allowing workers of this country to be abused. Right now, they are not providing the resources. So even the ones that can have cases done before the tribunal because they've been working for more than a year. I've had cases where employers fire people. And I go to the meetings and the employers tell me on the side that we know we're wrong. And we know the person entitled to $50,000 compensation. But we know it can take the tribunal 5 years. Take $25,000 and we can settle here. The person who lost their job and was on paycheck to paycheck, $25,000 today is very attractive as opposed to $50,000 5 or 6 years down the road. And that is
Yes,
what this
yes.
government is allowing to happen, because it is not putting the resources behind the Employment Rights Tribunal. Right now we have one panel of the tribunal working. The tribunal has 3 panels. So in essence, the legislation catered for at least 3 cases going on. But you have no chairman. The chairman has resigned over a year and gone to do the constitution that they can't get done all it now. The Republican Constitution, that is a beg. The country is begging this man to do the job that he craves, that he wanted so bad. $3,500 a month, and being getting 3 cents in work for these people. So he's gone. Then the other gentleman, Mr. Drake, he has also, I understand, tendered his resignation as a deputy chairman of the panel. So we have one, Kathy Hamblin, who is a young lawyer in private practice. So she has to do cases when she has the time, or neglect her work because you get about $200 or $300 to do one of these employment right cases. You know, if you see the quality of the work that you get, the government getting, pay you a little $300 to get done. The pay judges $18,000 and $19,000 a month come to do the same work that she getting $300 for that to do, you know. But I think she's doing it out of community service. But she cannot do all.
Right.
So you have,
got it.
This is how that is structured. You have one Employment Rights Tribunal consisting of 3 panels. Each panel has a lawyer as the chair, and then you have a labor representative and an employee representative. The unions recommend one person, and the Employees Confederation, that's another. Those 3, lawyer, employer representative, employee representative, they form a panel. No, there can only be one panel because you've only got one lawyer. And the amount of cases that is going in there. Yes, the Labor Department is sending them up because you go to what they call a conciliation meeting and trying for the employers to listen to reason. If they don't, then the worker has the right to say, but what am I going for a tribunal? So it goes to the tribunal. But there's no tribunal to hear it. And we've had all kinds of promises from this Minister of Labor saying that they will fix up the tribunal, give it a headquarters. You want to know how really bad it is?
Well, I would like to, but I got Heather in the waiting room. You get ready to come in.
Let me just finish off by
just very quickly. Let's hear this. Let's hear this point you're making.
You have the tribunal does not have a home.
Okay.
All right. So when you want to have a case, you have to look around and beg somebody to let you use their conference room. So if somebody is using the conference room, the tribunal can't get it. And so we have watch this. The chairman now doesn't have any work and court that there. The labor representative, they might be available. So you have the 3 of them have to be able to meet. Then the person who's representing the worker, they got now to have to be able to meet too. And then the lawyer who's representing the employer said, so when all of these people now come together and say all the times coincide now, you can't get a room. You can't get a room. So when you can't get a room, it has to go back and you have to go through that process all over again for the secretary to be rushing about the place looking for some place. And these cases are supposed to be heard in open. But then the place where they haven't opened. So unfortunately, the people who put this government in place are being punished by the same government for putting them in place. They're treating them very
Okay.
badly.
Yeah. Yep. No, I got what you're saying, and let me tell you, we're gonna see what Heather can add to this, because I can tell you, really, it is a travesty, and we need to have it fixed. Heather, I'm bringing you in, my dear. Good to have you with us this evening. You can unmute your mic. I don't get the
It
chance to
is.
be on with you like I used to be. I used to have you on with me on a Monday, and then you left me.
Um, I'm here. Good
You
evening,
know when you're not there, the
everyone.
girls just leave you.
Yeah,
Oh dear me,
things got a bit
Catherine.
busy, a bit
Yeah,
hectic,
I
and I
know,
couldn't
I
make
know,
it.
I know. But it's so nice
Um,
to have you on, really. And
yes, yes.
you're looking so lovely. Look at how we
Woo!
look
Yes,
look
thank
look,
you, thank
Caswell.
you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome,
Um,
welcome, welcome, Heather.
all
Welcome.
right. Good evening, everyone. But what was Caswell speaking about? I only came in a few minutes ago, and you wanted me to come in, but
I
I
was
don't
That
know
talking
what
about the
you're talking
useless
about.
Holland Jordan, who is not doing anything for labor in this country. The Employment Rights Tribunal is a mess. The labor legislation that the employers and the government is abusing, and he is doing nothing about it. But when the tribunal do one case, he gets up and tap his chest and say, "You see, the tribunal's working." But that's one of the 50.
Mhm. But
Well,
not only that, Heather, when in terms of, because I know you're coming on to deal with this matter to do with the archives, but
mhm.
my mind keeps going back to the fact that a lot of this stuff he's talking about, I mean, if you go back years, that's not kept in a government's office, vault or anything. It goes to archives in one place or the other, to the best of my understanding and knowledge. And so when something happens at that area, you're talking about records and history, financial records and so forth, that are gone. They are gone.
Correct. They affect
It's not like
everything.
it's not like even if it was being transferred to computer, the computers are in the same building, and so everything is gone. And that's why I thought maybe in terms of what you were coming in, how you could link the two of those things together.
Well, so far, I do not have any information specifically on the records that were lost in terms of labor. There is some information out there on what was in the vestry records, and I
Yes.
don't think I will have time tonight because some of them are actual people's stories and we should read them.
Wow.
So I'm
Wow.
hoping to come on again on Wednesday and read a few of them. But
Wow.
to start, I wanted to draw people's attention back to where I had ended off last week when I said that Barbadians should be asking several questions of the government, like what is the project at Vaultloose doing, what is being digitized, and where is the website that they should have created by now, because it's several years that they've been working on that project and they are utilizing taxpayers funds and they have not provided any information to the public of Barbados on that project. So I wanted to know why it is being kept a secret and what the government was archiving if it was not the records from the archives. And that is where I want to pick up. And if you know, even before I get there, I wanted to tell you that I believe that, or rather, it is believed that this digitization project at Vaultloose started in 2021. And there was an article in Barbados Today that made mention of John King saying in 2020 that the government's digitization program would start shortly. What I did learn was that this program was under the Ministry of Industry, Science, and Technology, the digitization program at Vaultloose. It was not under the Prime Minister's office. And I believe when Ms. Monroe first spoke about this project, I don't believe either she was lying or she was not aware of that project, because she said, and I will read what I captured from the newspaper when they went that morning today, when they were talking about making a full assessment of the damage. She said that it was, and I'm quoting now from the newspaper, as she continues speaking about government's intent to have an archival economy, she was moved to tears. And that's when Mr. Abrams stepped in. If she had known that there was an ongoing project, she would have stated it there and then. So I don't think she knew, because this, as I said before, it fell under the Ministry of Science, Industry, Science, and Technology, the one that Marcia Cattle has now. And I don't believe she knew. Otherwise, she would not have mentioned it in the way she mentioned it. She would have said that we have the project and, oh, we archiving information. We already captured some of this information from the archives, but nothing to that sort was ever mentioned. And it all leads back to what is there, what were they doing, if not information from the archives, and nobody has commented on that at all to date. All right, and to go on from Barbados today on June 22nd, Miss Monroe said, so she made a complete 360 turnaround. She said, it says Senator Dr. Chantal Monroe Knight has ordered a full report on how the process of digitization of vital records has been progressing. How could she have gone from one to the next? It don't make any sense. If she knew that it was in the process, that there was a digitization process, she would have mentioned it that very morning when she spoke on the day the archives burned, but she didn't mention it. But on June 26th, she was ordering a full report. And if this is her ministry, the ministry that she is working with now that had a responsibility, why is she ordering a report? Couldn't she have been able to go and grab it right there and then? So she didn't know. So she doesn't have a clue of what she was working with, because in my opinion, the archives was out of sight. Nobody was doing anything to it. And they believe that nothing so could ever happen. But we go on. And I wanted to bring people's attention to something. Did I have the entire amount of the facts here? Let's see if it is here. Yes. That currently the archives is closed, right? And there is no research facility available to do primary research. And I'm reading from someone here. I will not call her name, but she said, and I'll read it, so please listen. And it says the government of Barbados has been investing in a very costly digitization project, but we are so far behind on our investments in this sector that I am sure that the race is on. We were one of the better positioned jurisdictions in the region. Guyana's archive sustained irrevocable water damage several years ago from flooding. St. Kitts Archives occupies one fire-safe room at the bottom of government headquarters with several documents crumbling. The Jamaican archives are closed due to a pervasive mold problem and want of a chief archivist, and we lost almost entirely the Montserratian archives and other cultural institutions due to a volcanic eruption over 25 years ago. She's talking about Barbados now. Our own archives, our repositories have been affected by a changing climate. Large temperature swings and lack of climate control have closed, or she was talking about Barbados, have closed the Cave Hill campuses, West Indies collection, which also has a mold problem. The Barbados Museum Shellstone Library was also closed due to a similar problem, mold. My research students don't have anywhere to do their research. So critical questions about our past are not being answered. Soon the questions won't even have to be asked. Scholarly research trips by overseas researchers have been canceled and theology tourism negatively impacted. As costly as our documentary heritage is to preserve or digitize, we are losing a critical comprehensive advantage in diversifying our tourism and knowledge economies. The investment is worth it after decades of lack of investment. So there is nowhere in the island to do primary research, and that is a crying shame. What happened at the archives should never have happened. And I go on, and I want to bring people's attention to Mr. Abrams. Anybody knows what his title is?
Flung.
Caswell, do you know what his title is?
I'd have to look it up online. I really don't retain it.
He's the Minister of Home Affairs, and I don't know what the other attachments are.
All right. One of them is security, which means that securing the records of Barbados is also part of his responsibility, because that is part of the island. So when he was there, I believe that he was not just there because it was a fire. It's because this falls within the scope of his portfolio
No, it doesn't. Security that he's dealing with is
national security.
Is president, that kind of stuff. Not that aspect of security, because the other aspect of security is in the Prime Minister's office, where she deals with like but you know, the government security, you know, you got government security guards and that, and all the tax to them. That's
okay.
You got them. You got to be specific about the type of security you're talking about. His security is prison, fire service, that kind of, that's why his security is not security of any documents.
All right, that is what I was told. But okay, I take your point.
He was there as, you know, these fellas let the ambulance chase to be seen at the place and get a little point. That's why he was there. He wasn't there to serve useful purpose, just getting in the way.
Okay, I take your point. All right, so to go back, let me go on. Miss, where was it? Okay. One moment. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Don't tell me I can't find it now. But it's what Miss Mauro promised. She promised an investigation. I can't find it here, but she promised an investigation. And she said that she will be informing the public about it, and that she has also, as a part of the investigation, an international expert will be here to assist.
But let me ask you something, Heather. Why is she promising? I'm just playing the devil's advocate. Why is she promising an investigation if they know the cause of the fire is a lightning strike? What are you investigating?
I don't know.
Because that everywhere I turn, every report I read, every person I speak to tells me it was as a result of a lightning strike. To the best of my knowledge, you would initiate an investigation if you don't know the cause or to find out the cause. So if the cause is already determined to be a lightning strike, what is she investigating?
No, this is how they do it.
That's common sense to me, huh?
No, this is what government does. they come to a conclusion and then find facts to suit the conclusion that they come to, right? So that everything they find out will lead them toward a lightning strike. Rather than check the information they have and then come to a conclusion, they come to a conclusion first. Has always been the case with this government.
This is the difference we would call it. We would call this in religious studies, in our theology. I think it's exegetical preaching. In other words, you make a statement, then you try to prove it, rather than reading the word and letting the word explain itself, so to speak. So that's what you're saying, then, Caswell.
Yeah.
Heather, let me hear what you were going to say just now.
I agree with Caswell. They already came with a story prepared for the public. Regardless of what it is, that's the story. That's their story.
That's why I asked the question. No, I'm saying that's why I asked the question. You know, you're going to promise the public an investigation, but you've already concluded the cause.
Exactly.
So the only investigation I can see is the extent to what damage has been done, what records have been destroyed. If that is the aspect of your investigation, well, I can understand that.
And one more thing, she said something to the effect that I don't have it here. I have to go back and look for it. Perhaps on Wednesday I can come on again and show you all. But she said something to the effect that the digitization program started in December of last year, and that is not true. So it's something they're trying to hide. I don't know what it is, but that's not true. This program started back in 2021, not December last year, and it ended either in December last year. So perhaps that's where she got the confusion. It ended sometime between December and January, the ending of January this year, that's when it was halted. So there is something fishy going on there, but I don't have a clue as to what it is. So perhaps she did not know, and when she find out, her short story is that it started in December, but that is not true. I'm absolutely sure that is not true. That the program halted possibly at the end of January. And that is my update on the project. There are some photos showing the damage. And to me, it is heartbreaking because, as I said last week, this should never have happened. The information was not being secured. So that is my little delivery for tonight. And if Caswell wishes to continue or we discuss it some more, yes, we can. Or if anybody has any questions in the chat.
You know, the thing about it is that I was thinking, Heather, and I made the comment at the start of the show tonight, that in the context of what is happening in Barbados now, because I understand that among those materials that were destroyed, we also had records to do with land ownership. And I think that would have gone through some of the aspects with the vestry, because as you know, the church did a lot of that kind of stuff back in those days when they didn't have the kind of structure that we have today, the kind of infrastructure that we have today. When one looks at what is happening in terms of Drax Hall and, you know, the same Jules River and Martins Bay and so on, you know, the changes of property purposing and so forth. I'm not attempting to suggest necessarily that there's any conspiracy here. There might be. There might not be. I can't say that I have any information that I can indicate that, and I don't like to reference something if I can't prove it, you know. But it's just such what's the word I'm looking for? It's a strange coincidence.
I know.
If you find what I'm saying, you know, it's like, wait a minute, Kaz. It's like somebody was talking about, you know, us being thankful for the roads being repaired and so on the chat, and talking about they don't believe that the roads are being repaired for World Cup 2024. But it's a strange coincidence. You understand what I'm saying? Since the government had funding back in 2018 when they came to office, and I reference it tonight, it was a loan from the IADB that I recall. I don't have the details to hand, but I recall hearing of a loan acquired by from the Inter-American Development Bank to do with road rehabilitation in Barbados back in 2018. So the question has to be asked: why did it take you, 6 years? Why did it take you 6 years to begin a mill and pay program just when World Cup is beginning? So there are those coincidences that are occurring that are raising questions in people's mind. You see? Go ahead, Caswell.
But because one thing that we want to find out, since you were talking about the archives, there's a place in St. John called Zora's Land. I do not know it. I only know it because when I worked in the Ministry of Legal Affairs, I was working in a section called the Conveyancing section. And I had custody of several title deeds. And that Zora land was supposed to be for the people. I don't know how the government get to be owning it and going to sell it to people. No, because it was always land in trust for those people. But you would have to check through the archive to see the wills and stuff. And that is because government now will be selling land that is not theirs to sell.
Correct. Yes.
But that's what can happen because people don't have the record. That's one of the things I'm concerned about. So I'll give you an example. The government has taken over several plantations, but the plantations were mentioned in the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act. And under that act, the land is 10 cents a square foot. Government is selling that land for $250 a square foot and limiting the amount of land that you can have. But that has not been the case because there were two pieces of legislation: the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act and the Agricultural Holdings Options to Purchase Act. So you had a right to purchase the spot that you were living on, and then you also had the right to purchase the spot that you were farming. You must remember that. But a lot of these lands have been taken away from the people because they didn't know that they had a right. But Tom Adams put that legislation in place to secure, because the governor was giving you a little spot to live on without a place to put a clothesline. When the people are entitled to not only the spot with the house on, but the curtilage, which part of parent was then, all that land inside there. And if you had a piece of land at the back that you were farming, you're also entitled to purchase that. But that land was $1 square foot at the time, as opposed to the spot we're living on. So it's the house and the curtilage. Curtilage is just your yard. You're probably paling and stuff. That is what you were entitled to. They're not doing that anymore. But those records, I hope they're not lost, because I am planning to go and dig it, because same thing in Licorice Village, my Lord's Hill. I saw Minister Tom Hitchens talking about the people getting with $250 a square foot. That is Bell Plantation. And in the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act, so I want to be able to put them together and say, well, look, you see, people, this is Bell Plantation. So if those title deeds are missing or they're lost or burnt, government will get away with robbing people and making and looking as though I'm doing something for you. It is like somebody putting a gun in your face and saying, I'm relieving you of this money because you got too much of it. So you should be grateful. This is what the government is doing to people. They are robbing you, and you are supposed to be happy that they rob you. And the thing is, you didn't know that you had certain rights. Yes. Those records in the archives, I hope that they still be able, because sometimes when you burn books, you burn the edges, and you don't the inside. You can still find some.
Yes.
So I hope we have a lot of that.
You know what? Somebody mentioned. Well, they told me that their fear is that they hope that what is being digitized is not the government's information that they want to put out there. For example, if you destroy the true records and you come up with a set of records that you digitize and you say are the real ones, nobody would have any proof that there were other real records that exist.
Mhm.
So they said they hope that this is not the case of what is happening or had happened at Vault Loose.
Wow. Wow.
You see,
Well,
that's the problem. That is the problem with this government. Nobody trusts them.
well,
You
you
know,
see, that is something, Caswell. I raised on the march on Saturday, but I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out on that limb at the moment. But I did raise the matter of trust, and again, I mentioned it this morning. As a matter of fact, one of the areas that we want to touch on tonight actually addresses this aspect as well, the whole matter of trust. And I see Don is in the waiting room, and Don is going to be talking with us about the youth interest in national issues. And he's coming in just a moment. I'm going to bring him in, but he's going to speak about the youth and their involvement or lack thereof in national issues. And I believe that a large degree is a trust matter. You know what I'm saying? And I said it on the march, and I've said it several times before. I'll say it again. The pandemic has eroded the trust of citizens in their government in big time. And so it's not just in Barbados. You can look around the world, Australia, New Zealand, in United Kingdom. You can look in South America. You can look even into the USA and Canada. People do not trust their governments, and they don't trust what they're being told. That's why they want to control the narrative. That's why they want to put in a cybercrime bill so that they can control the accessibility you have to information, so that they're the ones who will feed what information they think you necessarily should have. And that is the real crux of the matter. Let me bring Don in. Good evening, Don. Great to have you with us. Great to have you joining us. Always nice for me. I don't know about Caswell and Heather, but always nice for me to mix with the young people in the hope that some youth continues to rub off, something along that line. But great to have you with us again tonight, Don. And we look forward to what you're going to be sharing. There's been so much happening in Barbados among our young people. And I dare say, more specifically, among our young men.
Correct.
And the casual way, to my mind, and I think I heard David Ellis treat to it today on Brass Tacks, the casual manner in which the Barbadian public is taking these issues for the young people, being killed. I think in the last couple of weeks, we've had about 5 or 6 young men killed. And by whatever means or for whatever reason, they were killed. Bottom line. And so as a young person, I'm sure you have quite a lot that you would have garnished and pulled together. And, we're excited to hear what you think concerning these aspects for the youth of Barbados.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on the show, Dr. Caswell, everybody on. It's always a pleasure for us to sit here and have this healthy dialogue about ways to really build up our country. So as you said, over the past couple of days, there have been so many murders. I believe the total count for the year is almost 20 so far.
Wow.
And we're not even halfway through the year yet. Barbados isn't a place where you used to have 40 and 50 murders back in the day. Cost of living crisis and so many other things are really propelling youth to do things that in the past they might not have had the real motivation to do before. This instant gratification that we're all seeking via social media and everything else, the need to be able to show off wads of cash, to be able to sell whoever can sell the most drugs, whoever can stab the most people, kill the most people. That's the path that a lot of young men are going down nowadays, to take that easy route to fame and that instant gratification. And I really think that that's the problem. None of the government's alleged solutions have been able to help. National Peace Program, nothing like that. The whole Ministry of Crime Prevention, it's really, caused almost the opposite effect. So we really need to address what is really causing the root of these issues. And that's really just poverty and the cost of living. Our young men want to be able to provide for themselves, provide for their family. A lot of the time, it doesn't even come from directly malicious intent. It's just that they don't see a way to, when a young man, when he thinks to himself, how do I make $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month? All I got is 3-4 CXEs. The only way I can do that is through crime. And if there were genuine avenues to make that kind of legitimate money, otherwise we wouldn't be seeing this crime problem. So we really do need to sit down and think about how do we get these legitimate revenue streams going for the people in the communities that need it the most.
Well, let me ask you this question, Don, from the youth's perspective. Because what I find is that government makes decisions without consultation. And I've found that over the years. If you're going to address youth or deal with youth issues or make provision for youth, I believe that one of the places you should start is having a discussion, having a dialogue and a conversation with them to find out what their views are, what their perspectives are, what they want to do, what they want to achieve. Because I believe every single one of them have skills and abilities. They may not all be academics. I went to school with Medford, and I'm sure you all know Medford. Medford is one brilliant craftsman. Medford Mahogany is one of I think the business I know of. He was still quite good in his academics, but his skill in the woodwork was brilliant. Now mine was, let's not bother about that. Let's leave my skills in the woodwork alone. But if you understand what I'm saying, what are the young people saying that they would like to see in terms of them reaching some of the objectives and dreams in their lives?
Just the opportunity to do so. I've experienced it a lot in my realms of life. I've tried to achieve a lot of things that people wait later on in their life to do. But ageism, I think, is a very big problem in society. Nobody is taking young people seriously enough. And I think that is one of the root causes of the problem. When a young person goes to do anything, whether it be to the bank, to Kaipo, to a credit union, and says, like, here I have a well thought out, for example, a well thought out business plan, opportunity for the bank to make money, make interest on the money that they lend me, for me to make profit for myself, to me to pay workers. People are always hesitant. People are always hesitant and always quick to query whatever something a young person is saying. And I think that if you're give them the chance to fail more so than anything else. And I think that's what would really push us forward. We're not really given the opportunity to do anything. And with that breeds that incompetence. I mean, sorry, well, it breeds incompetence as well, but also that lack of confidence is what I meant to say. And then it brings about that same urgency and that same willingness to go ahead and commit crime, since they're not seeing legitimate avenues being afforded to them.
Well, as I walk around and I talk with a lot of them, so many of them seem either not to be interested or not to know about a lot of the national issues that we're talking about. A lot of them haven't even heard anything about the cybercrime bill. Some of them have heard nothing at all about the child protection bill. And, some of them just don't seem to be interested in what Mia Motley does or what Ralph Thorne does. They just don't seem to be interested in the issues that are facing the country. Why do you think that is? Well, let me leave you to answer that. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, because as we've been talking about for the majority of the night, their issues are more. Have you ever heard, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Have you heard of
I'm
that?
not familiar with it. No, I'm
Okay,
not.
it basically, the long and short of it is, human beings have 5 tiers of needs. At the very bottom, it's about basic survival, just eating food,
Oh, yeah,
drinking
yeah.
drink, having shelter. And then as you go up the list, it gets to the very top, which is about self-actualization, which is not only having a job, but having a job that really fulfills you, really makes you think, and really makes you intellectual. So if we think about where the average person in Barbados is on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a lot of us are in that bottom tier level, where all we're thinking about is that basic survival. We're almost on survival mode. There's absolutely nothing left in the tank after a long, hard day of work to think about, political activism and how we could actually go forward with cohesion as a society. It's almost like if government and other outside forces stamp on your neck as much as possible so that you don't get that breathing room to really step back and think, how can we go out and organize with my fellow brothers and sisters here in Barbados to really talk about the issues, to really better the country. They don't have the time because when they come home and their children are crying, they want food, they're hungry. Though political activism, which you oftentimes have to do for free, is the last thing on their mind. Even some of the marches, I'm sure a lot of young people would want to come and support the marches, but they might have a job Monday to Friday, and that might not make ends meet, so they might need to work overtime on the weekends. Is all of these issues? I don't think as young people genuinely don't have a calling towards this type of work and activism. It's just that they just genuinely they can't. There's too much on their plate already, too much stress in them out. Life is already far too miserable to have to burden themselves with anything else.
So what you're saying is that they're so busy trying to
Mm-hmm.
make a life
Mm-hmm.
that, and part of me putting it this way, but that they couldn't give a damn about what's happening on a national level.
That's true, because you hear as a young person, oh, for instance, VAT went up from 15% to 17.5. Like, sure, you could debate that all you want, but at the end of the day, your
You got to
children
pay
aren't
it.
debating whether they're eating food tonight. The children eating food tonight, guaranteed. So they still have to go out into the world, pay these higher prices, and the only way to possibly do that is to work harder, work more hours. So at the end of the day, yeah, times might be getting tougher. They might believe and agree with the national discourse on anti-cost of living measures, but at the same time, they don't have any time to go and fight or advocate for these issues, go speak at town halls, because they're just so drained from everyday life already.
Hmm. Caswell, Heather, I know Caswell. I'm not sure if you all saw the show last night
I
with the
did.
gentleman from Kenya.
Yes, I did.
But one of the things that caught my attention was the amount of young people
Mm,
that were marching
mm-hmm,
in protest to the
mm-hmm.
cost, not just the increased cost of living, the financial, um, uh, uh,
Taxes, yeah, there were some taxes on
yeah,
bread and some
increase
other
in
staple
taxes on
items.
different things and so forth. And one of the things that caught my attention, which I wanted to listen to a bit more, but I had to go off to do some other things before the show began, um, had to do with the use of the social media
Mm-hmm.
in terms because you all are so into that
Correct.
that you know how to go about mobilizing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
let me put it to you like
yeah,
this. It's just, I guess in y'all's time, there's only really radio and then CBC. Imagine if any one of us here in this room had the exact same power as CBC Evening News. It really, social media has what I would like y'all to think about it as a perspective as giving power to the people. Look at this show. I'm not looking at the YouTube link specifically, so I don't know how many thousands of people are watching, but lots of people are watching, and we do this extremely affordably. It's YouTube, Facebook, all of these platforms let you stream completely for free. And the
uh-huh,
youth of today are on Instagram, TikTok, same YouTube, same Facebook, and we're able to disseminate our information and what we think is important to talk about completely for free. 30, 40 years ago, that was completely impossible. You had to rent heavy studio equipment, you had to get the broadcasting rights to do all of that. Now the internet has made that easy. And what a lot of the people in Kenya have been doing, there's some people who are like similarly minded to me and other young people in the space that do this in Barbados, but they actually make videos explaining what these bills in Parliament actually are. So, from a young person's perspective, there's no place in Barbados where you can go and watch a 3-minute video about, okay, this is the cybercrimes bills. These are the pros. These are the cons. There's absolutely no forum or media in Barbados, whether that be Government Information Service, CBC Nation, Barbados Today. It doesn't matter. There's nowhere that you can get that information in such a concise, easily to understand format. And that's a lot of what these social media influencers in Kenya are doing. And that's why it's mobilizing the youth so much. Imagine if we had, for example, a famous West Indies cricketer, a Bajan one, coming and talking about, okay, these are the cons to the cybercrimes bill. All the young people in the country would listen to that. I use the example of a cricketer because that's easier for y'all to relate to. But in our world, we have influencers just because they post a lot. They've amassed a following. So it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a cricketer or a soca singer or anybody like that. There are lots of people with social media following, similar to me, who have quite a bit of followers, thousands of followers. So if they're given the right information for the right organizations to disseminate amongst our youth population, that's really how we can get them active. Because it's all well and good to do all of these shows that we do right here, right now, but these shows go on for 3-4 hours. Nobody my age is really going to come on YouTube and watch that whole 4-hour show. But what they would do is, if we had an editor from this come on and post the highlights on social media. So Caswell might have a powerful 30 seconds that he goes off on. So might you, Doctor. So might Heather. So those are the kind of stuff that the young people need. We only can really take in about 30 seconds or so, as opposed to y'all's stamina enhanced durations. So we need to kind of really marry the two together. This long form content where we can have healthy discussions for hours and really cement home our points. But then we also need to be able to pull out the best 15 seconds, about 10 clips, 15 seconds long, of this entire 3-hour production that we done here tonight, and then put that on social media. And that is what you talk about going viral really is. When we talk about, the evils here in Barbados and we compare them to Kenya, that is what the people in Kenya are doing to activate the young people's mind. They're compressing all of the cons of, for example, our Cybercrimes bill here into a 20-second video and really pushing it to all the young people there so that they can truly understand how bad it is. And if the young people in Barbados were really to understand, they get intimidated very easy by all of the big jargon and all of the hyperbole and all the fancy words that these bills are written in. A lot of lawyers like to tell people, oh, forget it. Only lawyers could read these bills, you know what I mean? So that's the type of rhetoric that's used around the young people to intimidate them. But if we had people just disseminating the information in a more digestible way, it would really help. And I think that is why Kenya's youth have advanced so far, because the activists on their side, the elders would have been able to give the young people the information, and then the young people would have been able to translate it into a digestible way for the other young people in Kenya to really understand, so that everybody is on the same page.
Because I noticed you mentioned a 3-minute video, and I realize, even from a minister's standpoint, unless I keep exceptional enthusiasm, people zone out after 15 or 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Unless I am very demonstrative and excitable, and that type of thing, they'll stay with you through 30 minutes.
You personally have the personality for it. You could speak up on stage for hours and everybody can
and people would probably zone in with me, but the average person tends to zone out after about 15 or 20 minutes.
Correct.
Even when I'm going through YouTube and Caswell, you all can jump in anytime at all, Heather. I'm sure you all, in terms of watching videos, YouTube videos, I don't look for YouTube videos past maybe about 9 minutes.
Right. Similar to me.
Go ahead, Heather.
Actually, YouTube is good and bad because we have all acquired, I don't know if it's a skill or a taste or whatever. Our information span has significantly decreased because of that. Just 3 minutes and then we're going on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So this is what young people are accustomed to. So I am in agreement with this young man that we should especially develop 3-minute videos for these people, and perhaps a lot of them. So it will be just to target youth, because we mostly have, I believe, older or more mature people in our audience. So our audience is not the young people. So we have to do something so that we can get them into the right space that we want them to be in, similar to what is happening in Kenya. And did you see there's an action plan of things to do via social media in Kenya this week? And they have a whole list of things that they can do, things that I never thought of. I even saw a guy made an announcement on an aircraft when it was went on social media after the program last night, and he was encouraging people on the airline to go on the internet and do something. I can't remember what, but they are utilizing the media in ways that I did not imagine. So this is a young people thing. So we need to find out what they can do to get involved and get the youth in Barbados involved. But Kenya started, so we have them to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, from what I watched last night, the Prime Minister and the Kenyan President seem to be walking hand in hand around the world. So there's no reason why the young people in Barbados and the young people in Kenya can't walk hand in hand around the world either too.
Exactly.
You know, so let's look and see,
Exactly.
because when I worked for the BMW brand, I didn't believe in remaking the wheel. They already had the wheel already done. So let's look and see what we can tailor to our culture, because theirs is a little different. Their issue is a little different to ours. They're dealing with the increasing cost of living, which we got here too. I mean, because listening to what you said tonight, you're dealing with a lot of young people who are struggling to make ends meet. They're so consumed with just putting food on the table for their families. I spoke to one today, and she said to me, I'm not even bothering to think about trying to buy a house because I'll never be able to afford it. That was a statement of a I don't know what you would call them, Don, but that would be my children's age. That would be in their late 30s.
Millennials,
and some younger than that, because there's some younger families than that. And they're just fighting to put milk on the table for the baby, and paying gas. And for those who are traveling by bus, I'm shocked at how much money it's costing to travel on a bus to go to work.
Oh yeah, because it's $7 there, $7 back.
That's
for a lot of
$14 a day.
That's
That's $70 a week.
That's almost
That's a
2
lot of
hours
food.
of minimum wage you need to pay for bus fare alone.
Yeah. Caswell?
You just zeroed in on my problem with minimum wage. The government come up with this minimum wage thing, and they said, well, it must be a particular point. And what has happened? The employers decide that they're not going to pay anything more than what they were paying before. So when you were making $250 over 5 days, the people don't give you 5 days work anymore, and you still get $250. But that's $250 and still be finishing a week. And government again beat the chest and say, oh, so what we did, what they did, they put a lot of people out of work. And they didn't see. The government must not just scratch the surface. We need to be able to foresee what are the repercussions, what will happen if I do A. There's an outcome B. And you don't get to the outcome B. You should be foreseeing that. You should be planning for it. That's not happening. So we have too many people now not being fully utilized. And then they took bus fare up from how much it was, 150.
150 to 2, and then 2 to 350.
No, then 350. Sudden. That was a jump. That was a massive jump for people. Yeah. I can tell you, one day I was speaking to a supervisor about how supervisors treat workers. And this guy said to me as well, I have to agree with you because I was quarreling with one of the workers for coming to work late all the time. And he said, but he's one of my good workers, but I wanted there to work. So I brassy up. And he says, boss, don't talk about him, man. Let me go in the office and talk. And he said he felt so bad when fellas finished with him. He said, look, when I get paid at the end of the week, I give money to support my children, buy some food, and then I don't have any. Many mornings I might stop begging people bus fare to get to work. He said he felt so bad that he gave a couple of dollars to help pay bus fare that day because the fella said, I ain't got money to get work tomorrow. And that is what is happening.
And that's why people can't really be involved in the activism, because they're just fighting to survive to start with.
But mind you, he has children that got to get fed. But poor fella, working 8-hour shifts and can't hold his head above water. He does not have enough water to save. I remember when I first started working, and Don, you're going to laugh, I got $350 a month. Pretty some. I used to be able to save. I went to Chase Manhattan, we had Chase Manhattan my hand those days. And I had to open an account to put outside money because I know do all of it. You know what I mean? And I tell the story, you were there, thing, but at school, you know, I got 150 a week for lunch money. But that 150 a week used to buy on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays a rice and stew at the canteen with 25 cents.
Wow.
I'm not 100 years old, you know, and now you can see, and the prices have skyrocketed, but salaries have not kept pace.
No, salaries haven't kept up at all.
That's the thing, you know. The cost of living is going down. I mean, the cost of living is going up, and the chance of living is going down. You know, because it's so expensive. Don, I just got a quick picture. As you know, Marcia, you probably may not realize it, but Marcia's not on the show tonight. She's not been well, and certainly we're going to remember her in our prayers. And so she's unlikely to be on tonight because of some of the medication she's been using to deal with the situation she has. But she sent me
the action plan.
Action plan, yes. And I don't know if Dave has it. Dave, if you have it, if we could pull that action plan up.
Okay.
And while that's coming up, I want to remind us of a couple of things coming up this weekend. One is the march that is going to be beginning from Redmond Drive. Again, the traffic lights there on Fontebelle. Right around by the sewage plant, that junction right there by the Honda deal and the gas station, not the one up by Kensington Oval, the gas station down by Redmond Drive, Fontebelle, sewage, down by the sewage area. And that begins at 10 o'clock, and we're going to be marching again. We're going to keep that up. I believe that's going to be the last march, I think, for June. I think they're going to be taking a break, from what I understand. And then, of course, we have the roadside parliament on Sunday, and it was a location determined. Caswell, can you?
Yes, Hastings.
Hastings again. Okay, so that's going to be at Hastings, and I understand that we're going to be having some very special guests flying in from Trinidad for that roadside parliament. So you're not going to want to miss it. So you need to share. We're going to do our best to put the flyer up, so that you can probably, I don't know if they can share that with you. I'm going to have it on my Facebook page. But if you look at this 5 days of rage, Don, I'm not sure how well you can see it. If we can get
I can see
a little larger, Dave, if you can really bring it right up to the screen. Good. Because one of the things I'm seeing here, one of the words that catches my attention immediately is deplatform.
Yeah.
You know, so why don't I let you take a look at this and in the context of what we can do in terms of attracting the young people, you know, helping them to get involved in a way that they would be familiar with, rather than our processes, their processes. You know, could you go through some of these action points here with us?
Yeah, so the first two, the Sunday and the Monday, are about deplatforming. So the first day is deplatform politicians from social media. So
now, how do you do that?
So essentially, I'm gonna have to form an analogy for you to begin with, because our politicians here aren't as big on social media as theirs probably are over there. So to deplatform a politician would be the equivalent of hushing them. So let's say a politician wasn't able to go and air their propaganda on Nation or Barbados Today or CBC. Imagine they were completely silenced. That would be the equivalent of deplatforming them. So how you would do that on social media, which Marcia has been the victim of before, and anybody else that likes to speak the truth, you can go and report people's social media. So let's say Caswell, for example, posted that he was speaking at an upcoming roadside parliament. A lot of people can go onto his account and report that post, and they could say it's like quote unquote hate speech or whatever they decide to report it for. So that's what it looks like all the young people on Sunday the 23rd they're planning to do. They're planning to go on to all these politicians' social media platforms and report them. It literally says that in the second sentence. to report their accounts
Accounts and
so
shut
that
them
they're
down.
shut down. So, for example, if YouTube or Facebook got, let's say, like right now we're running this on YouTube, if YouTube got 20 or 30 reports from random viewers within a short period of time, they might take down this broadcast until they could analyze it. So, stuff like that. If you're able to get thousands of Kenyans to go and report, for example, the Prime Minister's account, it'll get taken down for sure. So that looks like what they want to do. More so on the Monday, then they're going to be using the same social media to disseminate information. As it says, deplatforming continues. Join Kenyans from across the world on X to learn about how this finance bill impacts us. So it's going to be influencers and people with large followings talking about the finance bill, talking about the pros and cons, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, what we need to see here in Barbados. And then throughout the world, it looks like they're having live marches. So on the Tuesday, there's going to be a live march in Europe, in London. And so in London, Dublin, and Paris, that's impressive that they're going to have the Kenyan diaspora marching in all three of those European cities. And then it goes on to the Wednesday when they have a fundraiser to support the families of protest victims. Because obviously, Barbados, we talk about how bad the situation here is. But in Africa and some of these other countries, political prisoners and those sort of situations are far worse than it is. So then, and then it looks like they're going to conclude on the Thursday with Kenyans in London, and the Netherlands march to the Kenyan embassy. So that's a very powerful move as well, marching towards the embassy in the Netherlands and in London again. So there's pressure all throughout Europe, all throughout North America, and that's admirable for them. Here in Barbados, we wouldn't be able to march in all these places. The Barbados diaspora in the Netherlands might not be that great. Certainly it's great there in London, but a lot of these other cities, we might not be able to get a realistic amount of people for it to make sense to march. But kudos to the Kenyans, to the young Kenyans especially, for making this happen. This is a very well thought out plan, and it's definitely going to help them get towards their goals.
But the thing is that this is one of the reasons I think they want to try to push through the cybercrime bill, because I see that, and I don't know again if Dave, you can pull this up. I see that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, is getting ready to pass their cybercrime bill. And the caption on the Jamaican Observer image I have says the PM says he will no longer be silent on use of social media to spread information. So technically what he is saying is that the government is going to decide what information is accurate and truthful.
Correct.
And
just like our cybercrimes bill.
Yeah, the same thing here. So who does the government think they are to begin to determine, given their complicit involvement over the past 3 years, which individual is going to believe government when governments have been at the root of the largest spread of misinformation and false information for the past 3 years? I'm sure it has happened before, but more specifically in the past 3 years because of the pandemic. And we are now seeing the information coming forth both in the courts and in governmental scrutiny and in the European Union and in the medical professional environments and so forth, that they were lying. You had a court in Denmark that has now clearly established that masks were not masks. What was again, Caswell? PCR tests.
Yes, 97%.
Were 97% inaccurate. But this is after the fact. So now you had the government telling us before that the people who were saying that the PCR tests were inaccurate were spreading false information. Now we discover that the people who were spreading false information were the governments. And now the government wants to tell us what information we can share.
Now, at the end of the day, it's all about, we all know how powerful the media is. Everybody here on this show right now knows how much the government hates this show. And you know why it hates this show? Because it opens people's eyes. Before social media and the internet, there was no way for the average Bajan who didn't have immense political pull to be able to go and say whatever they want. We have the liberty to say absolutely whatever we want on the show within reason. And that's why the government hates it so much. Social media has enabled regular, everyday citizens to have a voice bigger, arguably, than the government. So obviously, the government gets the last say because they have the power. But you can have somebody, for example, Rihanna. Rihanna is more powerful than any Bajan politician if she so chooses to use her power in that way. But the government hate that. So that's why they're going to try their best to censor everything on the internet with the cybercrimes bill here in Barbados and in Jamaica and everywhere else they implement it.
And you know the thing, yeah, Heather, did I hear you about to say something there? You're muted.
I was saying perhaps we need to get Rihanna on board. That will be a challenge. That will be a challenge. But we need somebody like that in order to help us.
It doesn't even need to be somebody that big, you know. As I said, realistic people that make a big difference are, you know, soca singers, West Indies cricketers, people that aren't, you know, multi-billionaires and actually would, you know, potentially come on this show and talk about these things. I don't think you would get Rihanna on the show, but could you get somebody, you know, more somebody not just as influential, but relatively influential? Definitely. So we need to, if we start small, we could definitely make it happen.
I think, Don, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
Who do you envision would possibly, as a youth, would possibly be a good fit for this?
No, those were some of the same examples I given. I'm not gonna name anybody specifically tonight, but as I said, influential people in society, the cricketers, soca singers, stuff like that. A lot of them I know and like share the same views as everybody here on the show. They might just be hesitant to come on and publicly, you know, criticize the government for whatever reason, whether it be for their brand deals, sponsorships. You have to think about a lot of that as well, but it's not too far out of reach to find somebody who is of similar mindset to us.
Okay. Well, you know, I think Heather, and I may say this and get my head cut off, but I think preachers can get this done, and I'm talking about authentic, genuine ones who people actually do believe, who speak the language of the young people, and I don't mean necessarily the slang. I'm just talking about addressing the issues that young people are facing, and in something like the cybercrime bill, you know, to get people like my children or my grandchildren, particularly my grandchildren, because I think my children even my children, because they're up in their 40s now, you probably wouldn't even call them young people anymore, you know, because they're up in their 40s. But I think our grandchildren, you know, they're on social media. They don't realize the danger in terms of the cybercrime bill, and I think a person such as myself and you know, you carry a certain degree of influence, and Don, I would think that maybe some young advocate ministers, preachers, you know, some of the younger guys, who, you know, in themselves have an understanding of the danger that the young people are exposing themselves to, because, you know, we have to be able to tell them, Caswell, that if they post something after, you take, for example, the situation in Jamaica, the wholeness, if a young person posts something that he thinks is misinformation, which in truth and in fact, remember, the bill says whether it's true or not, a young person could find themselves in jail for 7 years or $70,000 or both. I think that would catch their attention because none of them want to go to jail. Nobody, and they don't have the money. That's for sure.
Definitely.
If I can say something,
yeah, sure, Heather.
I think that in terms of education, that we have failed the youth. We have failed the youth, and now we want to get them on board. You know, like providing education in terms of civics. I don't know why that was ever stopped in schools in Barbados, because no, we want them to understand why this is so vital, why they should be fighting for their rights and so on. And we never taught them that. So that
can we relate the current plight of the young people, Heather? How can we marry, Don, the current plight of the young people with the knowledge of what's happening politically that is affecting their lives. I don't know if you understand what if you grasp
Yeah,
what I'm
how can we
saying.
marry it? As again,
You
as we were
know.
saying a little bit earlier in the show, we have to make it more digestible. I know there even quite a few, I don't know if this happens to y'all, but people randomly come up to me in the street and be like, I see you on Marcio Eat show every now and then. Keep up the great work, keep up the speeches and stuff. So that is people in their, I would say, like 40s and up are seeing us here on this medium. We just need to meet the young people where they are, and the young people are on TikTok and Instagram. So whereas you might not understand those platforms, all you need is somebody, for example, just like me, that does. And then you can chop up what we say and what we discuss on here into how we consume it on TikTok and Instagram. And that's really all you need. That's how Kenya was successful. They were able to disseminate the wisdom of their elders through the young people's medium. That is the key. Getting the elders' wisdom through to the young people in the places where the young people are. Every single, even 10-year-old here in Barbados is right now lying down in bed
Yeah.
on a laptop or on
Yep.
a tablet or on a phone, and you can put your messaging in front of them for free. Think about how crazy that is, for free. You just need to know how to do it. So that's where this group could really go from good to great. We just need one or two more young people on board that can help us edit videos and then disseminate them out to the young people on social media.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you how we can do that, because what I'm seeing in Kenya is that I don't know if it's how big the grouping is, but the young people seem to have come together with the elders
Right,
and
exactly.
acted what was pertinent. And they're putting it out there, in their own groupings and in their own how they cut it up or edit it, I think is the correct word.
Yeah,
How they
that is
edit
it.
it, that they catch salient points. And I remember Barack Obama making the point that it was social media that won him the presidency when he first ran. He cited the social media. Most of his success came from the social media, his command of that.
Definitely. I would say that because that was the first, I was young too. So that was the first presidential race I really took a lot of interest in, both because he was black and because he was really active on social media. I got
Well,
to run though, guys. I believe Mr. Stewart wants to come in and share some valuable information as
well,
well.
well, we really appreciate you taking the time, Don. We know you're a busy young man. We don't think that because you're a young man, you don't have anything to do. But we really appreciate you because your insights are so valuable, and to hear and understand, because sometimes at our level, the older level, we don't always tap into what the young people are feeling and what they'd like to do and what they'd like to contribute. We always want to try and push our view on them rather than hear, okay, this is what we would like to do. And we really appreciate you sharing that. And I look forward to be honest with you, I'm going to ask Marcia how I can reach you, because I'd like to have a further conversation with you to see, what a person like myself can do in turn, because I'm an idiot when it comes to X or Twitter or B or C or
Right.
Q. I don't even know
But
what
that's what I'm
the thing.
saying. A lot of the stuff,
Yeah.
Caswell, the first times I've ever seen or heard Caswell were on social media. Some smart young person took about a 45-second clip of him screaming at whichever cause he was screaming for at the time, and just put it on. And that's what we love. We can't handle more than 30 seconds. So
Right.
whenever you, the doctor, Caswell, Heather, whenever y'all have those little 45-second bursts of wisdom, that's all you need. You need to
Right.
clip that out of the whole 3-hour production and just put it on social media. So that's what
Well,
I could leave y'all with there. The perfect marriage between y'all's years of experience and then just us being able to disseminate it in a digestible format for the young people.
right. Well, thank you so much, Don. We really, really appreciate you taking the time on behalf of the loyal opposition, the coalition of the righteous, on behalf of Heather, Caswell, Kimar, Marcia, who I know she's probably watching the show anyhow, even though she may not be able to be on.
No,
We really
she's
want
there
to
for
thank
sure.
you for coming on. We look forward to you sharing in some of the upcoming shows as well, and maybe in some of the upcoming parliaments. As you all could see, On the screen right now, there's a flyer to do with the Roadside Parliament Stop Gun Violence. We have Roger Husbands. If you could make it a little larger for me, Dave, just bring it up in terms of magnifying it. Thank you. Drug Education and Counseling Services. We have Zico John, an ex-gang leader and motivational speaker. That's tremendous in the upcoming Roadside Parliament. We have Senator David Naked coming in from Trinidad and Tobago, and of course, Reverend Paul Leacott, an author. They're going to be all sharing at the Roadside Parliament, and of course, Kimar. Undoubtedly, I believe Caswell will be there. I'm going to be there as well.
Yeah, I'll be
and
there.
so we look forward to having you and share it, Don, and share our interests in really having the young people, hearing from them and seeing what we can do to help them understand something or learn something and then disseminate it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Caswell.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
God bless you. Well, as you can see from the flyer up there, the Senator David Nack, I hope I have his name right, Nakhead, is coming in for the Roadside Parliament, 5:30 at Hastings Rock, Sunday evening. Folk, you're not going to want to miss this Roadside Parliament. You really are not going to. He's bringing on the ground realistic experience with regards to the cybercrime bill and the others in terms of gun violence and so forth. And we really want to encourage you to join us on Sunday evening. And of course, don't forget the march on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And we're going to be moving off from the what's the drive again? Redmond Drive. We're going to be moving off from Redmond Drive and going up through Cheapside, up through Bridgetown, and turning across by Woolworth and so on, because I'm not even going to comment on the blocking off of Broad Street. That's another subject for another time. All right. So 10 o'clock on Saturday and 5:30 on Sunday evening. Well, Kimar is in the house. I'm going to just bring him in. He was backstage. Kimar, welcome. Good to have you. I haven't been on a show with you for a couple of weeks. I haven't had the privilege of hearing your contributions, your wisdom and information and learn at your feet. I have followed in terms of the YouTube videos and so on, but great to have you. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Good night, Ferdinand. Good night to Caswell. Good night to Heather. And good night to all of the members of the Loyal Opposition. Very good to see you on a Monday evening. Welcome. Well, I should say welcome myself to the show. It's good to see you all.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if you were able to be listening to the show as it went through tonight and listening to some of the comments of Don, and of course, the indomitable Caswell Franklin, and our Rose speaking on the whole aspect of the archives, the issue with the archives and so on. And of course, we always look forward to hearing from you with something that's on your mind and on your heart.
Yeah, well, good night to you again. I have some issues. There's some thoughts that I had. You can remember that we spoke to the development of Bridgetown, and we said on the show specifically that Broad Street would have been a pedestrian street after all this development is done. Remember that? We said that.
Yep. I remember that.
So I was
run.
Yes, we call a test, placebo test, like a experiment to see if it is plausible. And you put it on a day that has busy traffic on a weekend, where everybody traverses Bridgetown, right? In the middle of World Cup, you put a thing right there to block traffic to see how Bridgetown functions with Broad Street blocked, right? So this exercise was give them real-time information as to how Broad Street functions when it is blocked, right? And anytime you give a government a bit bit of a power, they never give it up. Government never relinquishes power that it gains over a society ever, right? So that's my thoughts on that. Um, Otherwise than that, there I have so many things I don't even. But I am noticing that. Sorry, go ahead. Somebody was saying something.
No, I don't think so. I wasn't sure where that noise was coming from, but go ahead.
Right. I am noticing that the numbers our cricket worker are have grown, which is fine. But I think we continue to miss the exercise that's happening here. No, we cannot play enough cricket to be able to make about $50 million to start paying back the loan to refurbish Kensington. $15 million, right? We cannot play enough cricket. So what this was really and truly was not this thing on a workup. That's just a production, but it was just exercises to continue to spend money, right? So contract here, contract there, starting to feather the nest early. Giving up the larges. We know the larges goes up to. However, in the midst of World Cup, the archives are burnt by a mysterious lightning bolt. Right? A mysterious lightning bolt. So, when I was growing up, I like cartoons. I was wondering if the Flash or Jean from X-Men or somebody brought down something and hit the archives. But I thought about this thing all along.
What's the name of that? What's the name of that Greek fella again that used to throw the thunderbolts? You all remember?
Thor.
What was his name? Casper, you can remember? Is Thor? No,
Thor
it was
the hammer.
It was a Greek god that used to throw the lightning bolts. Maybe it was him.
We remember something, but I thought about this thing, and I said, when I listened to the voice note that was circulating by the lady Empress, I can't remember the rest of her name, but she was speaking about the land records being burnt. We spoke about that on the show.
Vestry records.
But one area that was important was those vestry records,
Yes.
The records of the you can remember that the church was the most important power structure in Barbados, particularly the Anglican church system.
Yes, sir.
Right. And majority of the lands, a good set of land around Barbados is owned by the vestry system.
Yep.
Right. So how ironic that the vestry system, which belonged to which was an inheritance of the Queen and the Anglican system, the Church of England, the Church of, well, basically Anglican Church was the Church of Barbados, right? We are in a republic, right? So hypothetically, these documents will become total historical record as to what Barbados was under independence. So now that a new republic emerges, you don't have the vestry records, which were essentially the first set of owners of Barbados from the colonial time, right? And all types of land, all types of property, all types of areas, the government will just start to dip their hands in now because the records are gone, right? You could now create owners for things that they have owners before.
Yes, exactly, because you don't have a record.
Right. So just check around, look at a lot of the properties that the church and the vestry system own around Barbados, and I can guarantee you that the government of Barbados has somehow in trying to take it over to get town and country planning permission to develop it. sell it to develop it under this new physical development plan. And I think we need to pay attention to it, because there's no way that a country that has so much history in it should be suffering from the fact that you burn archives. We know the history of this country when it comes to elected people and the history of it. Just 2 from now, you're gonna hear more than those who are lost. And if they're gonna say they lost the medical records next. When they're gonna say they lost the database for the digital IDs next. Right? And this will continue to be a trend. But sometimes they don't think that they're lost, sometimes they think that they're sold. Like Wendy's.
I see Kazos. I see Kazos smiling. I see Kazos smiling like he knows something. We don't.
No. Just comment. The first somebody said, Mr. Fannin is very serious tonight. So that's what makes me smile. This one the comments, hey.
Dear me. But Kimar, talking about the vestry system and the Anglican Church, I would think that a catastrophe of this nature should have them extremely concerned, because the Anglican Church owned a lot of property in Barbados that was vested to them, as you know, back in those days by family members, by Barbadian family members. I know of many instances because my uncle was one of the first black priests in the Anglican Church, and I know of how people, in terms of how they view the reverends and so forth, would cede their properties to the Anglican Church for whatever reasons. I'm not going to go into it. But I would think that as an institution, they should be extremely concerned about the destruction of those archives and should be voicing it. But I have not heard a word.
But as a foreigner, there are some customs where some clergymen are not allowed to marry. They inherit some assets through being involved in the church, but they're not allowed to marry, because some of the assets that they may gain within the church, should not be passed on, whatever. And
some of the denominations are like that,
right? But a lot of land in Barbados is still controlled by that system,
Yes,
and
a lot of it.
And we've seen where government policies have undermined the vestry in Barbados significantly. Sometimes even going as far as perverting it. Sometimes picking out some of the worst spokespersons to represent the clergy, and just to basically confuse persons to run them out, come out to the churches. Look at how they handle COVID. Hey, look at what they did to the churches during COVID, and a lot of these. Sorry, Pastor Fernand, but a lot of the pastors became complicit during COVID with the government,
But truth is truth, Kimar. Don't be sorry. Truth is truth. When you have to speak truth, you have to speak truth.
Right.
And you're correct.
Right. And this thing has gotten so far now that Codrington College in St. John, I was made aware that there was a land that is involved in the Codrington College Trust, and the government of Barbados is trying to take over some of the land at college to be able to build a golf course and a hotel in St. John.
What?
But that land has been left for the descendants of the slaves until perpetuity. It can't be sold.
Not anymore. Not anymore, Heather. The record's gone.
No, government has nobody got records or not. This government has something called eminent domain. Don't care if you left land for your son, and his son after that, government could come and say, like, stop, we're going to pay the family for it. It's now ours. And they decide what price they're going to pay. Just like how they took up Miss Ram's land. She didn't consent. They just take it up. So even if you have the land where is in trust. Like for instance, Zora land, it's a job we were talking about earlier. That land is supposed to be for the people out there, but the government selling it. I don't know if the government got to own it, but even if they want to own it, they're going to go under the Land Acquisition Act and publish the Section 3, then Section 5, and all this, and the land is theirs. And then they can turn around and give and the thing is, the National Housing Corporation has been used to sidestep the Crown Land Vesting and Disposal Act, because every time you want to sell, government want to sell land, they have to go to Parliament and sell it. So what they do, or they create the National Housing Corporation, take up your land, the government takes up your land, but then they sell it to National Housing, or basically give it to National Housing. So National Housing is not Crown, or not state now. So you don't have to go to Parliament and pass legislation to get the land. So government just gets away with that. And people thought it was easy, it's easier, but then there's no actual like record, so to speak. When the government sells you land, well, National Housing sells you land, because that land came from the government, you don't have to go back beyond the day when the government passes it on to National Housing. From there on, you have good title. So you can ignore who owned the land before and say, well, okay, that's like a registrar's conveyance. If you go to the court and claim title to land, they say a registrar's conveyance is the best title to land. And a lot of that has been gotten through fraud, through lies. I'll give you examples. Well, I'm not talking about it, back to talk about that already, but we have instances where people who were, remember, Freddie, in the days when you were younger, they had somebody called the poor law inspector.
Oh, yeah.
If you had property and you died without issue, next thing you know, the poor law inspector owned that land. And you don't, and he can't tell where you get it from. Eventually, over time, his children or his children's children go to court and say, but this property has been in our family for all these years. And they get title to it. Adverse possession. So what you can, if you snuff out the archives, you can't even go back. So as far as anybody's concerned, the first man that ever owned that land was the poor law inspector. We had a lot of land in Barbados like that. I'm not talking about one or two spots. You know, I worked in land acquisitions. When I worked, it was then called the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and we had a lot of people who occupied the land, but they didn't have any papers for this land. So what we used to do, we used to give them make them sign something called a deed of indemnity, meaning that if somebody come up with a better title than them, and go and come to government for money, government say, well, look, you're going to go to X because he is the fellow that was indemnified the government. So if he was wrong, you got to get money for him, or the fellow who actually got the money. And it worked, because I don't know of any situations where somebody with a better title come forward for the land when the government has already paid somebody else for it. I know of instances where people had land and got paid by government, but the person didn't live in Barbados, never born in Barbados, never raised in Barbados. He had no record of him being a person in Barbados, but he get paid for the land. All kind of madness goes on. A fellow called Percival Henry. He wasn't on the voters list, he wasn't electoral list, he wasn't on any list. And I found it strange that somebody in Barbados who could be getting money for land that the government took up, and he didn't pay national insurance, he didn't vote, you know, something was strange, but he got paid.
I was speaking about land that the government took up. I was also informed that the government took up Society Plantation through the BADNC under Clive Maskell to do I don't know what. And as far as I know, Society Plantation was owned by Cotterton College Trust too, right? So I don't really know what's happening with the government and Cotterton College specifically, right? But I think we need some more information on what's happening with Society Plantation and why BADNC has took it over to do what exactly, right? But something needs to happen with government. The Clico case. No, we were never really told what happened there.
Oh, never really knew the result of that case.
Right? And that was tied up with this same whole project. And they're trying to siphon off Pool Plantation, which is owned by Clico, you know. And they were trying to siphon that off through the whole project smartly. Right? The chairman at Hope was also the chairman at Clico. Right?
Talk about insider trading.
Yep. So we all covered a bit of that web with Pool Plantation, and I feel that there's something much deeper going on with these plantations in St. John, you know. Because there are a couple of them that are still on with Clico and the government. I don't know. As far as I know, the company was in receivership, and the FST was supposed to make a decision on it, a decision that was made by the court. But I have not heard the government come with the divestment notice or so saying that this plantation or so would have been sold, this body, this. I haven't heard of it. But what we saw is they're trying to do some type of swing angle with Pool. I know that they're taking over Society Plantation through the BADMC. And I don't know what they could be trying because, you know, Maskell is an economist. I often argue that what could you be looking to do, or what could Clay Maskell be looking to do as chairman of BADMC and, you know, trying to take over society? It beats me.
Well, you see, that's the problem, Kimar, that we in Barbados are referring to. You know, I said earlier that I watched a video with the Deputy Prime Minister speaking about the mill and paving. And it's like government says, okay, we can just let you know what little foolish piece of thing going on around the country. But when it comes to the real issues, that's our business, nothing to do with you. And we've been debating, we've been arguing, we've been pressing, we've been pushing for transparency and accountability. And what has become evident to Barbadians is that this government is not transparent. This government is very secretive. Things are going on when you are watching cricket that you don't know what's passing through Parliament because you're so taken up with India versus Pakistan or whatever at Kensington Oval. You said something at the beginning of your presentation to do with Kensington, and I made a note. Not that I'm going away from the subject, but I made a note. Didn't we hear something about relinquishing the rights of Kensington Oval to someone else? And are we not still paying for World Cup 2007? And if it costs $32 or $34 million US to build a stadium seating 30-something thousand people up from scratch in Nassau County in the United States, where is the evidence of $25 million spent at Kensington? Where is it? Who is going to tell the people of Barbados $107,000 was spent on toilets, $250,000 was spent on the grounds, $195,000 was spent on the makeshift stand? That is what Barbadians want to hear. We do not want to hear, well, look, we put in new toilets. We don't want to hear that. We want a breakdown of the expenditure of the 50 million Barbados dollars that you borrowed, that we, the people of Barbados, have to pay back. Not the government, not the prime minister, not a single minister of government is going to pay a cent to this matter.
Pastor Ferdinand, I want to jump in here because
Sure, absolutely.
I spoke to this issue of this loan, this $50 million loan. And we missing the point here with this thing, you know. That loan is part of a bigger program to develop central purchasing and to build a hotel on the next side of the road. we put up on this screen a development plan of Bridgetown where it shows you Kensington Oval. You remember that, right?
Yes, I remember.
Yes, I remember.
And we said that how could you be investing all of this money if you were not seeking to also invest in Kensington Oval in a substantial way to earn profit, right? And the African Exim Bank is lending Barbados over $100 million to expand the Bridgetown port, right? So who has a lot of I would say assets or property in Bridgetown port? The same person who got the money to build the Hyatt. So make the linkages here, right? Ask also who got the contract to build the hotel right next to Kensington, right?
Wow.
So it's the same. Just
Who
follow the link.
Who getting the contract to supply the cement?
Yes. Right. So also, the Coast Guard base on Spring Garden, right? Right outside the Coast Guard base is set to be a plan to build facilities to export feed, grain, cement, and other products from right there, right? And entire port facilities are going right there. You know that return of going to the Coast Guard base or Spring Garden, right opposite Mount Gay.
Yeah.
And they're going to put a roundabout right there in that cutout. A roundabout is going there, and a car park along with the export facilities. So parts of that beach is going to be taken up.
Wow.
Right. So follow the linkage. I have the pictures here that I could show, but I will have to drop off quickly and forward them and come back on if you want to see. But I have the photos that will show you the development plan for outside of the Coast Guard base, which will show you how they plan to put that facility to do the feed facility and the export feed and export cement and grain and other stuff. Right. So don't just focus on Kensington. Kensington is about a minute point, and you're putting up the plan here, which is good, right? But that is just priming the area, fixing the outer infrastructure. So when they sell off the property at Central Purchasing, to put a hotel right outside of Kensington, we spoke about that extensively on the show. So I want the loyal opposition to remember and to remember that we spoke about these things so that when it happens, we don't be surprised. But Heather, you were saying something just now. I cut you off. Sorry.
With regards to the land the vestry. Remember, you were speaking about the vestry and lands that were known through the vestry system.
Yeah.
You were not here, but I had made the point that the secretive project that the government has to digitize records in Vault-Loose, that someone had mentioned to me that the possibility exists that they may be using that to superimpose and to make their own truths of the documents that exist in the archives. So that's probably the reason why the archival documents were destroyed. So nobody will be able to go back. They will just see what government presents, because the government has not told anyone what they are digitizing at Vault-Loose, and to me is a secretive operation. Since 2021, they were working on this digitization, and there is no website, so nobody knows what is going on. Something is not right there at all.
Right. Caswell, you told me something at the time, right? But I believe there's more to it, where the change in the Constitutional Republic Act said that what would have been determined crown lands and other property belonging to the Queen Elizabeth or whoever will now be state lands, right? And with the Barbadian head of state. I believe that there's something to that, and I believe that there's some and I can't quite put my finger on it yet, but I can figure it out. There's something about the way the government is treating the property that was taken away from the Queen that's no longer in her realm, that is solely under the control of the state of Barbados. I believe there is some massive change happening as the whole lands are treated. And because of the burning of these records, right, this is tingling me now even much further. Because I am agreeing with Heather here that I believe that they're trying to alter history and to
Yeah.
alter the ownership of Barbados, you know.
Yes, I can't but agree with you. I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you. In light of what we're seeing happening in Barbados, there is some underhanded, and this is not conspiracy. This is not conspiracy. We are seeing it in front of our face in other areas. Look at what's happening in St. Joseph. It may not appear to people to be a big issue, but it sets a precedent. It sets a standard. And what is clear is that this administration, and I'm sorry, you know, I know some of the people in this administration, and I am sorry that I have to say, you know, it's dishonest and it's corrupt, and you know, I want to make this statement because our time is almost gone. I want to give each of us the opportunity to make your closing comments, but I'm going to make this solemn promise. That sound familiar, Caswell? I'm going to
Yes.
make this solemn promise. If I ever come to a place in governance in this country where I can have these people investigated, charged, and locked up, I am going to go after it with every bone in my body. And I'm very serious about it because the time has come for somebody to get locked up in Barbados for what they're doing where the people's money is concerned. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We have 9 minutes left. So, Kimar, let me give you the opportunity for your closing comments, then you, Heather, and then yourself, Caswell.
Well, as we started out earlier, my thing here is how they're treating to move forward by trying to alter facts, trying to alter history, trying to distort what was already there. And we saw this from time they were trying to change Republic Day to Independence Day to Republic Day, and we saw that with the stealing the Barrows clothes, and you know we saw some other strange occurrences that made us believe that these people were trying to change history, right, and trying to bury any and all memories of independence, all its memories of El Barrow in particular. And they've gone even further now in attacking the church. They're attacking our wealth, right? And one important area that we did not focus on is this thing about land tax. You know, I keep looking in the newspaper and the amount of properties I see being listed at Bra to be sold, right? People can't handle these land taxes, you know, and people are becoming poor and poor and poor, and the government is getting more and more control over people's lands, and particularly poor people now, you know. So we need to haul and pull, and we need to check the government. Not just focus on the semantics of World Cup and, you know, t-shirts and cricketers and things. Anytime there's a massive celebration going on, Roman history, if we did history, Roman history would tell you that anytime the circus is going on, some important decision is being made, and you need to look.
Beyond the circus.
Yeah. So that is my just for the night. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Kimar, for bringing us to these things to the forefront and sensitizing us. Heather?
I just want to remind people of what I said when I started, what Miss Monroe said the very first time she was interviewed. She said that government had an intent to have an archival economy, but she never said that it started. She never mentioned digitization. And recently she said that the project started in December. And I know for a fact that that is not true. I know that the project halted. There was a project that started, I believe it was in 2021. It is a few years that it was in occurrence. And I know for a fact that it halted sometime between December and the end of January this year. So no digitization project started in December. So that is an outright lie. So something is wrong there. And really, people have to find out what is wrong, because it seems to be, the intent seems to be to steal people's land and come up with their own sets of facts with regards to land that was priorly owned by other people. And that's my conclusion.
Well, thank you so very much. And thank you for your presentation tonight, Heather. Really raising again questions concerning the whole aspect of this phenomenon, if I want to call it that, that we have witnessed here at our archives. Caswell, your closing comments, my friend.
I just want to let people be aware of the plight of the teachers. When those at the Hall Junior School, I hear criticisms of them. I even see somebody writing in the paper today that they should have told the kids about the sick and the parents about the sick out. You don't tell people about the sick out, but I think and the nation is publishing it. Sometimes when people write things, they should actually see if they make sense first before they put them in the paper. How do you go and tell people we're sick out next week? You don't do that. Right? However, but these teachers have been in a situation where they have endured more than most. And the school is falling apart. Staircases are rocky. Boards are creaking to the point where they feel loose, like they can drop down. And teachers have to walk on these things. Some they don't have a staff room for the teachers to go in. People have to go and sit down somewhere that they get their turn to teach and that kind of nonsense. The place is full of mold, monkey dung, sheep dung, everybody dung inside there, rat, mice, all kind of rodents. And people are seeing, the children have gotten about to take care of them at school. Teachers are not babysitters. And let me tell you something. Every person in Barbados has a right to refuse to work in dangerous conditions. It is Section 104 of the Safety and Health at Work Act. If you don't check it for yourself. If you are required to work in dangerous conditions, you can refuse and they cannot dismiss you for it. That's the same thing we had at Leicester Vaughan School when they sent the teachers home and said the place is too bad for teachers, but the board, the chairman was saying no, that this staff is not civil servant, this is the board staff and the people. And the staff want to come to school. I told them, hell no, you're not going anywhere. And I bet the department had to inform the chairman of the board, it don't work like that. These people have a right to refuse to work in those conditions. Same rights that the teachers at Wesley Hall had. And if people want to just talk, inform themselves first, because they would be weeping for not only these teachers, but the students as well, because Ronald Jones, when he was minister, was going to replace that school. He's come and gone ever since, and they were making preparations for it, and it has not happened. The school, they got, I just highlighted the loose floorboards and stuff. You imagine walking up on the floor one day, you might just come through it. The staircase, you got to walk on it carefully. They got rooms that shut down because they're mold, and you can't, and the place is so stink. But your room is abandoned, but right across the corridor from that room is a classroom where people are getting sick because in close proximity. It is the end of the term coming up very shortly. That place should be closed. Children at school get early vacation, and teachers be allowed to breathe some fresh air in the next place that they're going to be working. I do not. I feel the school should be abandoned and rebuilt or pushed down and rebuilt. It is not fit for purpose. I got reports where the perimeter of the school is broken in a lot of areas, and people just come in, animals come in, people come in the pasture, and sheep come in and graze. And of course, now you have sheep dung, and the monkeys travel. They put the monkeys don't worry about where they put their dung. So it's on the pasture. People got to be breaking up that before. All kind of madness going around this place, and nobody is thinking about the teacher. They just feel the teachers are being unreasonable. They are not. They're getting sick. It is uncomfortable and it's dangerous to work. Look out for the teachers. Them be the people that take care of your children for as a matter of fact, more than you, because when you get home, you're going to sleep. But then with your children from 8 till 3:30, they spend a lot of time with your children, so look out for them.
Thank you, Caswell. Thank you so much. Well, of course, folks, we want to remind you of the march on Saturday this Saturday coming at 10 o'clock. We are going to be moving off from Redmond Drive. That is the junction by the traffic lights, by the Honda dealer, by the sewage plant. There's a gas station right there on the corner. I can't remember what. Is it Rubis or Sol? I don't recall. But it's a gas station right on the corner there. Rubis, by the Honda dealer and by the sewage plant. That junction right there. We'll be heading off from there on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And we also want to remind you of the upcoming roadside parliament on Sunday evening at 5:30. That is this coming Sunday at 5:30 at Hastings Rocks.
Right.
And it's going to be...
Don't forget the picnic. Don't forget the picnic at Bath in St. John the following Sunday, the 7th of July.
Okay. I don't know if the others have anything ready for that yet. That's at Bath.
Yes, the opposition stress.
The loyal opposition picnic. Okay, thank you, Kimar. Yes, somebody's reminding me Fontebelle and Lakes Folly. Yes, thank you very much, Pete. You're very right. But on that roadside parliament, we're going to have Mr. Roger Husbands from the Drug Education and Counseling Service, Mr. Zico John, an ex-gang leader and now motivational speaker, author Reverend Paul Leacock, and Senator David Nakid from Trinidad and Tobago. I believe on this occasion he will be, emceeing, seeing the, and if I have it correct, he might be emceeing the Parliament evening. But let me just remind you of those two very important events. And I think this is going to be the last march for June. I think they're going to be taking a break in terms of that. Yes, stress less, loyal opposition family picnic and lime. That is Sunday, July the 7th from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening. And that's going to be at Bath in St. John. All right. So a number of things happening over the next couple of weekends. And we look forward to you joining us. So again, we want to thank all of you for being here with us tonight. And let me end, as you would expect a reverend to end, with a extract of scripture for you. I'm looking out of the book of Esther, just as a reminder as to the power of a single person. The story where Haman had strategized to have the destruction of the entire nation of Israel, and the one person he couldn't get to kneel and bow and to kneel before him was Mordecai, and it angered him. And it was just one person. He was extremely angry, built a gallows to hang Mordecai on, and eventually, the story goes that he himself was hung on it. And I want to liken this loyal opposition and this coalition of the righteous onto Mordecai. This is a thorn in the Prime Minister's side. And, just be careful, Madam Prime Minister, that the gallows that you're trying to set up to silence this show is not going to be the very gallows that you find yourself hanging from. Just be very careful, Madam Prime Minister. And I close with this singular statement. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. You may think you are powerful, but let me remind you that there is one who gave you breath, and he can take it just as quickly as he gave it. There's one that gave you governance, and he does not need an election to remove you. And I caution you, be careful how you deal with the church. For whatever we may think of it, it is his idea. And if you deal with it in a manner that he finds is not befitting, he is going to respond in kind. So I would be very careful, ma'am, how you deal with not only the church, but how you deal with the people that he has made and he is looking after. Ma'am, I caution you, be very careful how you deal with the design of humanity that God has given you governance over. If you abuse them, you will pay the price. And that is my closing comment. I want to thank all of you that joined us tonight. Thank you, Loyal Opposition. Thank you, Caswell and Heather, Kimar, Dawn, that joined us. We remember Marcia in our prayers. Tonight, we pray that God will strengthen her. We pray that he will cause the medication to do her good and not to harm her, and that she will be back with us on Wednesday night in a very powerful way. She's a very powerful young lady, and we are happy to be a part of the team that she is a part of here on the Marcia Week Show. Thank you for being with us tonight. I know we're going to have to play those two wonderful tunes that are Caswell's favorites. Heather, it was so nice to see you tonight and to hear from you again. God bless you.
Nice to see you too.
Yes, and Kimar, again, thank you for the enlightenment that you have brought to us, the reminders, the exposures. Caswell, thank you for your continuing labor in labor. And of course, Dawn, my goodness, what a wonderful contribution from Dawn tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you all. We wish you a great night and the blessings of the Lord upon each one of you, that you will rest well and wake to serve him in whatever capacity you are involved in the morning. So until Wednesday night, God bless you all. God bless you, Caswell, Heather, Kimar, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday evening. Mr. Maestro David, hit it.
Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that the suffering done. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full, now you and job they promise me. And a girl like me want power and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that the suffering done. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down.
That math nor English, pretending to be good, I pretending to be good, just pretending to be good. I pretending to be good, I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Well, God bless you. Have a great night, folk. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.